So we are going live right now. One second, ladies. It's pretty much, it's loading. And we are live. And I'm gonna start recording. All right, ladies, you guys ready?
Yeah.
All right, let's do it. What's up, everybody? We are live. Welcome to another session with the Government Cloud Podcast. You guys already know who I am. My name is Will. I am the host of this show. We have a great episode. As you guys can see, we have some beautiful ladies joining us tonight, and we have some great discussions and topics to talk about tonight. So if you're tuning in for the very first time, you're watching this for the very first time, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for tuning in. To all my subscribers out there that always watch my live shows every single weekend, thank you so much. Much love to you guys. And if you love the content, appreciate what I do when I support my channel, press that like, subscribe button. But I do have a disclaimer. I know we're talking about dating, sex, relationships. So these are the type of conversations for a mature audience. So I do have a disclaimer real quick for all the members under the age of 18.
This content is not suitable for the children under the age of 18 without adult supervision. Please be advised.
All right, please be advised. So yeah, we are going to talk about mature content tonight. So if you don't have adult supervision or you're under the age of 18, yeah, you need to go to sleep. All right. Anyways, don't forget, we do have the live chat. So everybody that watches my content every single show, I always appreciate your feedback and your messages and also your live opinions that you guys always drop on the live chat. So yeah, let me know your thoughts. We're going to have a variety of topics and discussions tonight based on what these ladies are going to share. I'm always interested to hear your thoughts on what we talk about, especially the difference between men and women. Don't forget, this is a public show. So if you guys want to watch this and you want to be part of the conversation, open conversation, you guys already know I'm always open for dialogue, whether we agree or disagree. I know there's a lot of women who get triggered sometimes.
How dare you?
But anyways, whether we agree or disagree, let's have the conversation. Come on and have a conversation with me or these beautiful ladies. But you know, the rules is be respectful, respect the guest, the platform, and me, and you'll be able to be part of the conversation. Don't forget, we do have the super chat donation. So all you guys are always donate financially to my channel. Much love to you guys. So if you guys want to support my channel and support me fully, love what I do, drop a super chat donation. Much love to you guys. And if you want to, when you do drop a super chat donation, the best way to do it is through a question, through a topic, and we get to reciprocate that and answer any question or topic that you guys may have for us live on the show. So if you have a specific question or topic that you guys want us to answer live on the show, real time, just drop it through a super chat donation, and we'll be able to reciprocate that for you. So much love to all you guys. Always donate to my channel. But nevertheless, that's all my YouTube stuff. Let's get right into it. Let's get right into the show. We have it's time to talk about dating, sex, and relationships. All right, you guys already know what time it is. Anyways, let's get right into it. I'm gonna ask the beautiful ladies to all introduce themselves real quick. So if you guys don't mind, ladies, introduce yourselves. What's your name? What's your age? What do you do? And what's your relationship status? A lot of people that are interested to know. I'll start with you, Channing, all the way from South Africa. Go ahead, Channing. Introduce yourself real quick.
Hi, I'm Channing. I'm 19. I'm a student and I'm from South Africa and I'm very, very single.
All right. All right. A lot of emphasis on very, very single. Okay,
Yeah.
got you. Fellas, you know what to do. I'm gonna drop their Instagram and their social media links in the bottom, so you guys know what to do. All right, and I'll pass it on to the next person. Francesca, go ahead and introduce yourself real quick.
Hi, my name is Francesca. My Instagram and YouTube is Planet French Fries. Talk about neurodiversity. A lot of topics about neurodiversity and being an autistic adult. I am 35 years old and I am in a 10-year-old relationship.
All right, nice. All right. Thank you so much, Francesca. Yeah, and man, you don't even look 35, man. You look so good. You look so young. Yeah, good genetics. From your parents. All right. Thank you so much. And last but not least, Kiko, go ahead and introduce yourself real quick.
Hi guys, my name is Keiko. I also go by Cakes. I'm 23 years old. I am a dancer. I am also a barber and also a tattoo apprentice. And then relationship is complicated.
No worries. Fellas, you guys know what that complicated means? Single. All right. No worries. Kiko, thank you so much for jumping on tonight. And ladies, yeah, let's have some fun tonight. Let's ask some questions, ask your topics. I know you guys got your topics. Make sure you guys get ready. To shoot those topics, to shoot those thoughts, and have those conversations tonight. But nevertheless, yeah. So, ladies, the first question I want to ask you guys real quick. Here's a question I always get from a lot of men who watch my channel. If you, what are your expectations from men? So, when you meet men, especially the men that you want to have a long-term relationship that you want to take seriously, obviously we're all in the modern day dating today. It's casual dating, so sometimes there's some people that we like to have fun with, and obviously there's just some people that we see, okay, this person I want to be serious, I want to have a long-term commitment relationship. So for those men that you want to have serious long-term commitment relationship with, what are your expectations from those men? I'm just interested to hear your thoughts about that topic. So I'll start with you, Channing. So what are your expectations for men, especially the men that you want to go into a long-term relationship with? Go ahead.
So I'm very, very old-fashioned. In a modern kind of world, I blame it on Disney. But it's kind of like, small things, opening the car door. Like, I really want like a gentleman. Like, if they can prove that they're a gentleman, buy flowers, good with kids, someone who's genuinely serious and is just like, wants to be all for you, not a party person, like someone who's just, wants to be with you, can prove that to themselves. Like, overall, just a gentleman, speaks well to you, good to your family, and is always there when you need them. That to me is a big thing. I would say that's what I'd look for in someone. Someone a bit mature, financially stable, someone who's willing to commit as much as I am. So yeah.
All right. I'm interested. I mean, based on what you said, you said you're traditional. So you like traditional men? Yeah. Okay. All right. No worries.
I'm a hopeless romantic kind of vibe. Like, I think, I've always kind of just wanted someone who like will take their jacket off for me, or if there's a puddle, they will lie in the puddle and let me walk on them. I'm just joking. But someone very traditional, very like, how our parents were kind of brought up, coming to the front door to get you, not like messaging you saying, hey, I'm here. Someone who's, just there and does everything so old fashioned, and just because that's how it is. Like, all these relationships that have lasted like 50, 60 years started out that way, started out traditional, started out with a cute story, and it's very whimsical of me to want, but that's where my standards are. So
okay. And according to your observation of the dating market over there in South Africa, like are the men or the boys you run into, are they traditional, or like what are they?
They called Joburg. I'm from Johannesburg. They called Joburg boys, and they are just the most disgusting. Sorry, guys, but it's not all of them. But they are party animals with like these thick accents, and just want to get girls and just drop them off the next day and never see them again. Like, it's there's no one in South Africa. It's like, I know everyone, but none of them are for me.
Got you. And do you find a lot of men who are very traditional, ready for commitment your age, or like do you like to date older guys?
I always go so older. Yeah, I always go 22, 23, because my age, it's like, everybody just wants to party, and I went through that stage when I was about 16, 17. I was the same, where I was like, I don't really want anything. But the older I get, the more like I realize that I just want something long term with one person. And that's kind of hard, and that's why I've been single for so long, is because I won't lower my standard than that. Like, I'm not just going to pick anyone. They need to really be gentlemen, prove themselves. Like, I need to want to be with them and not have to sit through the 60 million girls or the drama. Like, it's just, you know, that type of vibe.
Oh, got you. All right. Okay. All right. Yeah, I'm just interested. All right. See how it is over there in South Africa. I'm learning. I guess we're all the same wherever you are in the world. I was just joking. All right. All right. No worries. Yeah. Thank you, Channing, for sharing. If you're watching this right now, let me know your thoughts in the comments. What you guys think about insurance, and I'll pass it on to Kiko. Kiko, what's your thoughts? So, what's to the question? What are your expectations for men, especially the long-term relationships? Go ahead.
For myself, because I do have a kid, like I need somebody who's family oriented, someone that likes kids, I don't want someone to come into my life just wanting to be in my life. I want them to also be a part of my daughter's life. Not saying it's like something that's gonna happen right away, because I don't like people just meeting her right off the bat. I don't want just anybody in her life, but like I need somebody that's gonna just want to be there, And then on top of that, I need someone who's very secure with themselves, because the jobs that I have, a lot of men will say they're okay with it. Oh my God, I'm dating a dancer. Oh my God, I'm talking to a dancer, blah, blah, blah. Or, oh my God, she's a barber. But I'm around a lot of men, and a lot of guys don't like that, and they're going to feel some type of way about it. And I can't have somebody that's going to act like a baby later on, like I have a child, I can't take care of another one, and also somebody that, like I said, like family oriented. The way that a man talks to his mother, his grandma, his sisters is the same way he's going to talk to me. So I need someone who's respectful in that sense. And then someone who's just open to like new adventures, wants to because I'm very like, sometimes some days I'm very random, and I'll just like, okay, we're going to go do this. We're going to do that. Like, I want someone to be like, oh my God, Kate, I'm down, like, we're going to go on this hike today, or we're going to, I don't know, drive around the island or something. Like, I want someone to be down, other than, like our schedules lining up and whatever. But like, yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. So, yeah, new adventures. You want a man that's very secure by himself and family oriented. And are you looking for like long term? So you're just looking for long, because I know you have a kid right now. So like,
yeah.
you're not trying to waste time. Like, you just want a guy that's time to.
Like, if I'm gonna waste time, like, you can be a friend. Like, I'll come to me when you want to get a haircut, or come to the club when you want to spend money. I'll see you then. But like, don't come to me with no bullshit, nothing like that.
I want to ask you, like, do you prefer men who already have kids already? Because I know you're a single mom. Or do you prefer? I mean, what do you prefer? Like, guys with already have kids, or guys who have no kids at all?
I don't care. Preferably, like, I don't have a preference, because again, it's how they treat like their family if they don't have kids, or like how they are with their friends, because I can see somebody like the way they act around their friends, and then the way they act around me, like, and just because the person has kids doesn't mean they're a good dad, or doesn't mean they're a good person, like, as I have friends that are dads and they don't even take care of their kids, and I have mom friends, and on top of that, I have mom friends that are like, don't really take care of their kids, or they're not really around for their kids and whatnot. So.
Oh, okay. All right. So, I got you. Yeah. So, all right. Yeah. And all right. So, yeah. Okay. No worries. Kiko. I'm sorry. Kiko, right?
Yeah, Kiko.
Okay. Because I always get mixed up Kiko and Geico. Too much of those commercials in my mind right now.
No. Okay.
All right, Kiko. All right. Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so much. Same thing. You guys watching this right now. Let me know your thoughts. What she shared. And last but not least, Francesca. What are your thoughts about the question? What are your expectations? Obviously, you're in a 10-year relationship, so I'm kind of interested to hear your unique perspective. Yeah. What are your expectations for men?
Well, first I wanted to just add that I believe, because I have a lot of obviously, a lot of friends and stuff that a lot of my friends that are actually very good looking women, and you will think like that I know, like, oh my God, any man would be so lucky to be with this girl. And somehow they end up not finding the right person for them, or just men that appreciate them enough. So I do think that although I have a lot of guy friends, more guy friends than girlfriends actually, And I know a lot of my guy friends are good guys and have brothers and cousins, and they are good guys. So from my perspective, I would think like, well, just how there's good guys, there's bad guys, and good girls and bad girls. But I do notice that I feel like there's more guys that are just not, I don't know if it's their moms or I don't know what is it, but there's more guys that just don't know how to be good to women, if you know what I mean. So they just kind of like tend to be very, of course, men tend to be more immature than women when they're like, say, the same age and stuff.
That's a fact.
But I do notice that there's these tendencies, right, that men have. Like, for example, there's more centers of women being abused than men being abused by women, you know? So little things like that where I feel like men really have to start thinking about learning how to getting along with women and understand how a woman thinks so they can be in a good relationship. Because I think mainly most women, what they really want is just a man that is going to be a friend, you know, going to be a friend, going to understand them, going to, you know, be able to have a discussion without arguing, going to be able to, you know, trust them without being, you know, an issue. And just feel like most relationships just don't work out because either men want to do whatever they want and then they don't, it's always so unequal, you know. The woman always kind of gives a lot. And I noticed even too that a lot of my friends, they're more loyal to their boyfriend than they are to the actual friends themselves. So women, I see a lot of patterns of women having a tendency to be more loyal to men than women, and in men, the opposite, being more loyal to their friends than to women. It's kind of like a known thing. But me personally, before I got with my current partner, I was looking for someone like him. So it was really crazy how we actually end up being together, because at the beginning, he just wasn't really into me. He thought that I was just kind of like just too much personality. He probably thought like, oh, I don't know if I can be in a relationship with this girl. But after me being in a very volatile relationship before him with a guy that would lie a lot, that he was like a compulsive liar, and he was young, so he was kind of like still, but he had these tendencies that I didn't like about him, but because I was in love with him and I thought, well, you know, like I like all these things about him. We get along so well. Like there's all these positives. I would try to not realize that it's like, well, the negatives are just something that, you know, I should really think about if I really want to continue a relationship with somebody that I can trust, somebody that lies, somebody that cheats, somebody that, you know, is not respectful, right? So after going through this very bad breakup and, you know, this very toxic, volatile relationship, I said, okay, you know, the next person I date needs to be somebody like really different from him. It needs to be somebody that is not going to want to be, you know, the center of the attention, not going to want to, you know, have all these negative things about his personality where like, he needs to be a genuinely good person pretty much, right? That I could admire, that I could call my friend, you know, because you can't have a relationship with somebody that I noticed that my ex-boyfriend, he will lie to other people, and I would think, well, he wouldn't lie to me because I'm his girlfriend, right? But that's where I think, like, if he had this patterns in his personality, you know, he does it to other people, why wouldn't he do it to me? So that's why that wasn't my lesson that I learned from a previous relationship. I need to find somebody that is honest. So when I met Martin, my current relationship, he was honest. He was a little too honest that it would hurt at times. That he'll be like, oh, I don't know, you know, or we can, you know, I don't want to lead you on. And he will say things like that, and it would hurt me. But at the beginning, I was like, it's cool, you know, I'm not trying to jump into a new relationship because I just got out of a relationship. So I'm just trying to get to know people and have fun. And I'm like, I really like you and we have fun. So whatever it is, what it is. And if I meet somebody else after and, you know, you're still not serious about, then, you know, then cool. So I just took it very slowly. We just took it very, very slowly for the first 6 months. But that's where we got to really know our personalities. And without having that, I like the fact that he wasn't trying to date me, because that way he was 100% himself. He wasn't trying to look good with me. You know what I mean? So it would show a lot of things that I let me know who he really was as a person, without having these, there was no like, oh, if you do this, there's going to be a relationship. There was no promise at all. It was just like, we're just friends and that was it. And we're just hooking up pretty much. But that's how I realized. So I guess to answer the question, I just wanted a person that would be honest, and that could be kind of like a balance to my personality too. So I'm a little more hyper, maybe HD, tend to like talk a lot and stuff like that. And he was more mellow, quiet, and but it was very important that he was like still honest, and he would still speak to me and say things straight up without being afraid of like hurting my feelings and stuff like that.
Okay. All right. No worries. Hey, thanks. Yeah, thank you for sharing that and the experiences. Yeah, if you guys are watching this right now, let me know. I see you guys on live chat, dropping your comments. I see one of them is very interested in Geico. You got a big, you got a fan. You got some fans on my, a lot of men on my channel. Showing you some love, Geico.
Thank you.
All right. Nevertheless, ladies, I do have some. I'll give you guys an opportunity to respond. Do you guys want to respond to what anybody said?
Yeah, I think it's Francesca, right? I really liked her point about saying how they like your future partner needs to be your friend, or like your best friend. I really, really like that, and I really think it's important, because if you look at like the difference between a best friend and someone you want to be with, it's like your best friend you want to see all the time, and you have so many things in common, and you get along so well. I think that a boyfriend or a husband should be another form of a best friend, which I really, really like. And another thing that she said was that, I think it was your current partner, you said that he at first didn't want to be with you, or like he was not ready to commit.
He was
I
like,
think
we met through a friend in common, and we went out one day and we dated and everything. But I think after a couple nights that we hung out, he just kind of like, just straight off the bat told me like, just want you to know that I don't see this going anywhere, so I don't want you to get your hopes up. Like, I don't know, he just said it like that. I was like, whoa. So I was a little hurt, my feelings at first. I'm like, well, so too soon to know this, right? But I was like, okay, we're still having a good time. So I'm not, I don't know what the future, maybe I didn't want to be with you a few months down the line. So who knows? So I'm just enjoying that we're getting along right now. We're having great conversations together. We seem to have, everything seems to be cool from my perspective, and you still seem to want to hang out. So I don't know, I'm just taking one day at a time. That's how I took it.
Yeah, I like how honest he was with you, because I think for me, that's also a big thing, is honesty. But also, I feel like if I was in your position, I would have never gone back. Honestly, I think like, how people talk about getting like the ick. That's like, for me, if people aren't like interested in me and want it like at the get-go, then I don't want it at all. So, props to you for that, holding out that hope, because if someone said that to me, I probably would have been like, all right, bye,
I was in a place where I was still getting over my presentation. I felt very lonely at the time. So I felt like I needed someone to just make me feel that just make me just kind of like distract me a little bit. And he was somebody that I genuinely liked for a long time, because he was previously dating a friend of mine. She's the one actually introduced us. And she just kind of wasn't really interested from the beginning. And I would always tell him like, oh, he seems like such a nice guy, like you should really go for it. And well, she ended up not. So when when I was done with my relationship, I mentioned to her, she was like, you need to start dating. And I was like, the only guy that I might consider like, that I would like to date is a guy like the one you were dating. He just seems so, I don't know, there was just a lot of chemistry from my part. And so she introduced us. But when she told me about him, she was like, he's a very nice guy. Like that was her, you know, like she off the bat just, you know, give me a good reference, you know, that he's a really good guy. And I just needed to be pretty much hooked up with someone that at least I knew from other people that could have something nice to say about him. So when he said that, I just thought, well, you know, he doesn't know me enough. So I did feel a little weird about that. I'm like, okay. And then I talked to my mom, and she kind of encouraged me to, like, you know what? Ignore him. You know, you're like, it's not like you're trying to be serious right now anyways. And if you're having a good time, so just use him as a distraction, she said. You know, it's a distraction, and who knows what's gonna happen later. And yeah,
it worked out.
I grew in him, he grew in me, and we've been so happy. It's been an amazing relationship. He's my best friend. We do so many fun things together. We have a business together. We go snowboarding together. So I do joke around about him with him at the beginning. Like, imagine if I would have just, you know, been like, screw you, and, you know, have a little fight and stuff like that. But yeah, I guess my advice to other people is like, sometimes, you know, you have to give a little bit of, not take things too personal, be too proudful. We can, you know, like if you're ever in a situation, that just be like, well, you know, I'm not trying to get to take this relationship to anything. I didn't say I was trying to be serious. I'm just trying to, you know, have a good time and get to know you, and, you know, who knows, but because you never know what's going to happen in the future. So, you know, in my case, it was a good call, just hanging in there and getting to know, because the most important thing is you have to get to know a person. People, I see so many stories of people meeting somebody. Oh, she was so amazing guy. You know, open the car door, everything. What a gentleman. And then, like, when they're trying too hard at the beginning, that could be also a red flag. You know, because that could be like, then when they show their true colors, you know, once they get you enough to, like, they feel comfortable enough, then they have another side that sometimes they're compensating for something else when they're trying too hard. So I wouldn't also necessarily trust the people. Not saying that all of them are like that, but it's not trust people. It's trying too hard. You know, I feel like you shouldn't try too hard to win a person. It should be just enough to, if the person likes you, should be interested enough to want to go on a second date with you, regardless if you're looking for a long term or short term, you know?
Mm-hmm. All right, no worries. All right, ladies, thank you for sharing. I want to give a special shout out to Fatty with a super chat donation. Fatty, thank you so much for super chat donation. Much love to you, man. Always supporting my channel all the way from Portugal. So Fatty has a question, ladies, and I gotta give that priority real quick to reciprocate his donation. His question is: do women in 2022 still value good men? All right, so that's the question he wants to bring up. So I want to hear you ladies, which is very interesting, because I do believe in today's dating market, especially with social media, one of the things I do see, you know, I know a lot of times when I ask people, you know, what do they want in men and women, you know, it's always like, you know, the generic answer: I want a guy that's honest, I want a guy that's good integrity, good morals, good values. Which is, I believe that's fine. I think that's all we want. But I honestly believe a lot of our things that the way we mate select, especially when it comes to opposite sex, is not based on like social attraction. It's more based on sexual attraction. So I believe that when you know, we always pick people who we are sexually attracted to, because if you only like men who are honest and kind and being a gentleman, then you would, you know, marry the guy that's at McDonald's. Right? But obviously there are certain things when it comes to sexual dynamics, you know, for women, a lot of times they like a guy that's tall, they like a guy that's ambitious, you know, he has good financial stability, good socioeconomic status, guys' life together. So and those are usually the things that, you know, women are sexually attracted to. The same thing for men. We have different things that we're sexually attracted to. We like a woman that's pretty, sexual, you know, physical attractive, nice body, hips, titties, ass, you know, all those things that men are attracted to. So a lot of times, a lot of people will, and I think that's why he brought up that question. A lot of times in today's dating market, a lot of women say they want good men, or they say they want a traditional man, they want a man they're ready for a long-term relationship, but they're always going for the tall guys. They're always going for the guy with money. They're always going for the guys. But I don't blame those women, because like that's what women are sexually attracted to. And same thing for men. I don't blame men for going always picking the pretty girls, because that's what we're sexually attracted to. Is what yet, but when you learn through life, you have to also understand that you have to look beyond the surface. Like that's nice. That's nice to have, but you have to get to know the person. I think that's what Francesca said. You have to get to know the person beyond the surface level. And a lot of times people today, all they focus on the surface, and that's what they go to, but then they find out later on that that person is not really a good person. And a lot of times the good guys will be like, you go, hey, I'm a good guy. But all the girls are going for the bad, bad boys. All right. So ladies, I want to ask, so that's a question. I want to bring up that question for you guys, just to reciprocate the question for Fatty. Do you guys honestly want good men? And I want you guys to be honest. It's okay to be honest today. Or do you guys have certain things that you guys like? You want good men, but you also want a good man that's 6 foot, has money. I'm just interested here if you guys want to be open about it, because I do believe we are always going to pick based on what we are sexually attracted to, not only the social attraction, but the sexual attraction. So do you guys value good men? You don't care about the height. You don't care about his money. You don't care. Is that honest for you? I'm just asking. That's what they're asking. That's what the guy's asking. If you're gonna be honest, or do you care about the guy's money? Do you care about his height? Do you care about how much money he has? And hey, and like we're not judging here. It's just that's your preference. But if you just want a good man, you don't care about none of that. You just want a good man, then that's what Fatty wants to know. So do you still value good men, and that's it, or do you value more things that he has to bring to the table besides being a good man for you to be not only attracted to him but sexually attracted to him? I'll start with you. Francesca, go ahead and answer that question.
I feel like that's a huge misconception about women wanting the hot guy and men wanting the hot girls. I feel like maybe when they're really young, obviously what you see on TV is beautiful, perfect body women and perfect body men, and Barbies and Kens and stuff. And I feel like when you're in high school, especially I remember when I was in high school, and all the friends that I had, yeah, like most of the kids that were dating were the popular good body girls and the more mature, the ones that the early bloomers and stuff like that. And I feel that that's because when you're young, like you don't care about their personality, you just care that they're sexy and pretty, and you just want a kid. You have like your hormones all over you. But I have most of my best friends are like very good looking, and honestly, like they gone through that they went through that stage of their life where like they wanted to have a hot boyfriend or the top boyfriend or whatever. And after they go through that, and they realize that these guys are way too into themselves, they're jerks, they don't treat them well, they make them feel bad, they make them feel ugly, they don't make them feel good enough, they eventually like end up dating guys that are like, you would think like, like even they say themselves like, I like ugly guys, I don't care. Why? Because they want the guy that is going to make them feel special, that is going to take care of them, that is at the end of the day, we're all going to get ugly, and we're going to get old, and we're going to get fat. So it gets
for some.
Yeah, you
not all of us.
when you're with a person that no matter how good looking it is, if it's a nagging person or a person that is always talking shit and toxic and hateful, you don't start seeing them as like good looking anymore. You start seeing through them, and you start seeing them as who they are, and you're just like this ugly person, like you no longer, and anybody who has been through this experience, will understand that the exterior looks of someone, they only last for for a few moments. Once people start knowing who the person really is on the inside, you don't see them as attractive. You don't see like, oh my God, you're so hot, even though you're talking this much shit. Like, no, that just doesn't happen. Like the picture, the mask disappears because you start seeing how ugly that person is. So that it's a complete lie that we think that only men like hot women. I've seen a lot of good looking men that like to go to gym and everything, and their girlfriends are not this model looking person. You know, they prefer dating somebody that is caring and nurturing and loving and just a person that they feel they can trust, and usually a person that reminds them of their mom or the mom that they wish they had. So they want somebody that they feel at home with. Same with the woman. The woman will go crazy over a man that it's caring and loving and they feel protected with, and they feel they can trust, and they feel at home. You know, it doesn't matter the look really.
Well, I mean, let me ask you. We're always gonna pick people we're sexually attracted to, right? I mean, there is truth to it.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, yeah, well,
that way.
yeah, like the guys that you said, like the guys who work out and always in the gym, you know, their girlfriends may not be supermodels, but I'm sure if you look at their partners, they're somewhat attractive, right? They're not with like totally like an ugly person. You know, that's all I'm saying is like, I mean, how rarely do you see somebody that's like, you know, really pretty, unless with somebody that's really ugly.
Because they say they see each other somewhere, work or a party or something, and something about their physique attracted them. Maybe it was their eyes, maybe something. But that's not the only way people hook up. Many times you're, you know, just let's say in a social gathering, and then you meet. I know people, but like I know true stories of people that they were not off the bat attractive, but then they somehow met each other and they started talking, and then they realized that their personalities were just, you know,
okay.
And physically they were not like completely like, oh, you know, but usually it was not necessarily their type per se off the bat, but their personality was just so incredibly attractive that's how most couples,
yeah,
that's how they usually happen.
I mean, I think it's you're always gonna pick somebody that you can attract, right? So, you know, but you know, the notion that that looks don't matter, it's a lie. The looks matter to a degree. Like, you know, we all have there's a certain type of physical attractiveness that everybody's looking for. Everybody knows their levels and what they would date and what they won't date. But you know, I have ladies on this panel, so let me ask the ladies, you know, does looks matter? Would you date a guy that's 100% ugly? I mean, be honest. Or you look at somebody that you have to be somewhat attracted to him. Because let me ask you, Channing, like, if the guy's ugly, could you be with him seriously, or like you have to be physically, sexually attracted to a degree?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And people have given me trouble for my whole life. I always say that you won't start, like everyone's like, oh, personality. You're not going to start talking to a person unless you find them attractive. Like in a room, who are you going to? You know, you can't, if you're standing in a room and you see a crowd of people, you can't see someone's personality. You can see what they look like and pinpoint what you like and go talk to them. And it's important for me, you know, it's really like it's someone who's, you know, not just like physically good looking, but just also the way how they look after themselves. Are they clean? Are they shaven? Is their eyebrows under control? You know, because that also, it gives, their physical explains a lot about their personality as well. You know, if they are a complete slob, then you wonder, okay, you know, why are they not looking after themselves? Or if they are an extreme neat freak, then you think, okay, maybe why this? And it's important to me. So, it's really important to me. I think, you know, you don't ever want to date someone who you're not proud of how they look, you know, like that's what all girls, it's like locker room girls talk is that, oh, you're so good looking, like all these celebrities that are like thirst traps on TikTok is like Vinny Hacker, and it's like Tom Holland, and you know, all these boys who are visually attractive because no one knows what their personality is in real life. So
okay, all right, no worries. What about you, Kiko? Like, could you date an extremely ugly guy, or he has to be some to a degree somewhat sexually attractive to you?
I agree with Channing, you know, like you don't know how a person is, especially like, you know, you see what they look like. Oh my God, he's so good looking, whatever. I mean, I'm a sucker for a good smile, don't get me wrong, but if I'm talking to this person and they have like an ugly personality, I'm sorry, but you gotta go. Like, I would take someone less attractive that's
But not
has
ugly.
the personality. The personality is there rather than somebody that's gonna be so judgmental. Like somebody that's talking shit about the next girl that walks in, or talk shit about the next guy that walks in, or say if we go to the gym or we go to the beach or something, they have something to say about like other people that are walking around. Like, I don't want somebody like that. That's draining. I don't need someone that's about that kind of like, I associate like drama lifestyle in a sense, you could say. But I mean, it's up and down, like how Channing said, like having somebody you're proud of and whatnot, and everything. And like also what Francesca said, having somebody that you can bring home. Yeah, of course. Like, I want somebody that I'm proud to bring home to my dad, or like my mom and whatnot, because my dad is a scary person. So like, I need somebody that's able to how would I say it? Like, I guess you can say like hold their own and is respectful and whatnot.
Okay.
And yeah, basically just it's hard to tell sometimes because like, yeah.
Okay, but if he's extremely ugly, he has no shot.
Not that he has no shot. I mean, some of the guys I've dated are a little questionable, but
I think they all have a few.
From 0 to 10, from 0 to 10, what would they rank in physical attractiveness? Be honest.
Wait, what do you mean? Like,
yeah, some of the guys were questionable. So like from 0 to 10, 0 being hell no.
Hell no. No.
And then 10 would be.
I dated a 3, and he treated me like I was a 3, and I was like, "Oh, sir, you came to me." Like, I didn't come to you. You came to me and treated me like the way that you are. No.
So what compensated for his lack of physical attractiveness?
It came with the way that a lot of people, like, their true colors show after a while. Like, you don't know how a person is sometimes when they're when they first, you guys first have that conversation, you guys have the first couple dates, whatever. And then after a few months, it's like, oh, shoot, this person is manipulative, or this person is, so say, abusive, Like, you don't know how a person really is straight off the bat. Sometimes you do. Like, some people are the same throughout the entire relationship. Other people are completely different. Like, you don't know, And this person was, oh, sorry, continue.
No, I was like, the guy that was a 3, you gave him a shot. Obviously, there's something that compensated for his looks. Like, what was those other qualities that made you look beyond his looks, that you to find him, to select him and take a shot with it?
He wanted to just take care of me, not like financially, but like be there for me, like mentally. Wanted to make sure that I was okay. Like, he seemed very, like a family oriented. He took care of his mom and everything. From what I saw in the beginning, and then after, he kind of just like, he changed.
Oh, so stability. So he saw kind of some kind of stability in that compensated for his 3. Yeah. Okay. All right. No, I mean that's understandable, because a lot of women see a man's ability to be ambitious and stable. That's sexually attractive for a lot of women. There's a lot of science on that. But
I mean, I think, yeah. Ooh,
real quick, let me just give a shout out to Fatty. He had another super chat donation. How many years should the good man wait for your friends to be tired of the bad boy and finally choose him? 5, 10, 20.
I wanted to add a little something to a previous topic.
Yeah, go ahead.
Kiko, right? Kiko reminded me of also another example that I really feel that, like, when you say ugly, I'm not, eyes in the beauty's in the eyes of the beholder. So I'm not exactly sure what is ugly to you, because I've seen girls that find guys really attractive, and I'm like, oh, like, why,
Well, yeah. I mean, in the real world, there's people that look ugly. Let's be honest. There's some ugly people out there, and I'm just being honest. I'm not saying they're bad people. I'm not saying,
but other people don't.
well, I'm just saying from a physical attractiveness, since we're talking about relationships, because we go based on what we see and what we look. There's some people out there that,
let's say not
ugly,
muscular, not really tall, not super symmetric, right? Not super, what most people consider good looking.
Who's a celebrity you think that's ugly, like physically? Like, name out.
Her names of celebrities.
There's somebody. I mean, there's some celebrities like, damn, that dude is ugly.
Pete Davidson.
Yeah, Pete Davidson.
Help me.
Pete Davidson.
I don't get the half. I'm sorry.
The guys from The Office, with that one guy that came out in The Hangover or whatever.
Oh yeah, got you.
Like super dorky, but I mean, for example, let's talk about him, right? I'm sure that guy, he plays the dorky, clumsy guy in most of his shows, but I'm sure in real life, he drops panties. Why? Because he has so much personality. So when I know, because I know my friends, like I seen them in action where like they see this guy, and this guy, to me, I'm a little more shallow than, just, it doesn't matter how much personality I have. I'm a little bit, I have to find a little bit attractive, but I feel like for most girls that I know, if a guy has a lot of personality and a lot of confidence, oh my God, they see that. They just see that. They'll see the couple of things, like he has nice eyes, and like personality is everything, especially in guys. I cannot stress how I'm so serious about this. Like any guy that thinks that, oh, I'm ugly, no girls can like me. No, don't worry about how ugly you are, because I've seen really, really big guys with pimples on their face and whatever, and they have the most confidence and they pull girls. So besides, having confidence and personality, you also have to, because sometimes with confidence comes a little bit of arrogance. So you have to just kind of be a down-to-earth person and treat the other person how you would like to be treated. That's my advice to any guy out there who doesn't feel like they're good looking enough to pull good looking girls, because I have seen so many good looking girls, that go to the gym 2 hours a day, every day, and they're dating these kinds of guys because they want a guy who, like Kiko said, own his own, who can have personality and be, this man that they feel comfortable around, so trust me, looks is not everything, because I had so many friends tell me I'd much rather date a guy who's not as good looking but has like a personality that I can admire than a guy who's extremely hot but their personality is like meh. So that's there's no way that I have been asked a lot of
No, I totally understand where you're coming from, Francesca, that looks aren't everything, right? I mean, that is true. But but that guy you said that on that TV show that
Steve Carell.
Oh, from the guy. Yeah, I mean, do you think he's a panty dropper because of his, obviously it's not from his looks, but obviously he's at a TV show, he's doing pretty well.
Not the money. Come on.
I know. I'm just saying, like he's
but
But what I'm saying it's because of his financial, his social status, financial status, and women will overlook a guy's physical attributes if he's doing really well. There's a lot of women that,
and they're not celebrities and not ballers, and they still pull girls. So I confidence is just definitely everything for girls. Everything.
No worries. And I mean, that's what I've said is like that guy from that show, like he has money and he has status. So like he's gonna jump on. So he's like a lot of girls that are gonna overlook his physical attractiveness because he got money. Because for women, I mean, there's science behind this that you guys value a guy's social economic status more than looks. For men, it's more about looks. We don't care about a woman's financial and social economic status. If she's pretty, that's what we go for. But that's why you see a lot of women date men who have money, Even though you see those men are like, damn, those guys are ugly, but they got money, but they have attractive women. But you don't see the vice versa. You don't see the opposite.
Girls are like that. I know a lot of friends that they don't really care. They have way more money, or the guy just, barely makes enough money or has a regular job, and they still date them because of who they are. When I met my current partner, he worked at a warehouse. He barely made $300 a week, rented a small room. Like, he had no money. I have more money than him. So that money is nothing. It's I saw the quality.
Well, yeah. I mean, for you personally, money is nothing. But for the average woman, money does make a difference for a guy. I mean,
the average person cares for money.
Huh?
The average person cares for money.
Well, that's what I'm saying. For you, it may not be matter to you, but for the average woman, if they see a guy that's on a TV show, if you see a guy that has money, that has some kind of clout or some status, some kind of fame, that will make him more sexually attractive to her. All right. All right. So, Fatty, man. Hey, this is a guy, ladies. This is Fatty. Fatty, thank you for always dropping the chat donations. Ladies, I just want to finish off his question. I want to ask you guys, because his question was like, how long would a woman wait? How many years should the good man wait for your friends to be tired of the bad boy and finally choosing 5 to 10, 20? And for a lot of times, I do believe at the end of the day, people are gonna go for what they're sexually attracted to, and especially for women, like social media has like allowed people to have access to all types of people, especially people they want to pursue. And sometimes a lot of people, social media has created this conflated expectations. Everybody wants the perfect guy. Even guys want the perfect girl because of social media. And a lot of times, you do see a lot of women, they go pursue these bad boys or these guys that they're attractive, and they overlook all the red flags and toxic behaviors. And then the guys are actually the good and honest guys. They don't get selected. And then those girls that, after 5, 10 years, they finally realize that time is running out. They want to find a guy. They want to find a guy. They realize the guys that they're trying to pursue are not picking them. It's just using them and not giving them long-term commitment. And they try to go to the good guys. And then the good guys like, hey, I've been waiting for all these years. You haven't selected me. And now you want to come to me. Now you want to come back to me. Nah. I don't want you. No, I don't want you anymore. So, and that's a real thing, that happens. And you see that. So like for you guys, just to answer that question, do you guys experience that? Because obviously you see a lot of people that keep going back to the same person, even though that person's hurting them. And because that person has some, like I said, we're always going to pick who we're sexually attracted to. So if the guy's tall, good looking, got money, a lot of women will tolerate that. And I do believe when it comes to good looking men and men who got money and got status, a lot of women will tolerate those men. And that's why and also if you date a man that's physically attractive, a guy that's got money, you have to understand also he has options. So a lot of women need to understand that if you want to date a guy that's above average among all men, he's probably pursued by every other girl. So like it's gonna take a lot for him to commit to you, and you have to probably bring a lot more to the table to prove to him, for him to settle down. Or he might just wait later on when he's finally ready. But yeah, do you guys honestly just do you guys see? Are you guys if you see a good guy, you guys are willing to go to him, or there's certain things that you guys he has to meet before you guys give him a shot?
Add on top of like what you said, like the money aspect of things, like say if I really like this person and I'm with them, like, and say my man or whatever, he has dreams, he has aspirations, he has something that he wants to excel in, say if it's like sports or if it's like art or something, or it's music. Like if I'm really into you and like we built this up, even if you're not up there, you're not making the money that you want to be making, but you're like below average, and like I have money and whatnot, I'm going to support you until you're able to make your dreams up there, as long as you're on the same page as me of not that financial aspect of, but being there for me as my other half, like I want to build with somebody. I don't want somebody that, if they have it and they got it, whatever, that's cool. But like, I want somebody that, say like they have these dreams, they have the aspirations. I want to build with this person. I want to help you. I want to be there for you, and I've noticed with a lot of men, like they're not very secure with themselves, where they don't like a woman that's secure on their own, that has it on their own, and they feel less of a man when there's a woman that wants to help them.
Okay. All right. Yeah. No. Hey, so the good thing is we have Fatty here, because that's something, Geico, that's something that I do talk with a lot of women that bring up that, they're pretty financially stable. They got their own money. And a lot of times the men don't want to be them or select them or take them seriously, because to you, for the women, they feel like that the men are insecure, right? And that's something that I always have a debate with women, because I have to explain to them, like, men and women, we have different things that we look for as far as what we are attracted to. And a lot of times, one of the things that as men, we don't really care about a woman's socioeconomic status, like your ability to take, because we know a woman will not take care of a man. We know that as men, we know that you're not going to take care of me. And if you have to take care of me, there's like you said, I think, Geico, you said that you're willing to build with a man that started from the bottom and help him accomplish his dreams. The caveat to that is there's a time limit that you're willing to tolerate. So a lot of women will say that, hey, I want to build with a man from the bottom, ground up. But then if he doesn't do it within a year, 2, 3, 4, 5, you're going to look for another man that has that ability. So that's why for a lot of men, that's why it's for them, if they meet a woman, that's why it's not a good idea for them to choose a woman that has her shit together, has her money, because there's a time, you have an expectation to get to your level. And that's a lot of pressure on men. And the man's like, well, damn, like, I'm trying to get my life together, but give me a couple of years. But he knows it's a time bomb. And also,
as long as like the progress is there too, like if I'm not seeing progress, I'm like, I'm sorry, like you gotta go. Like how I said in the beginning, like I have a kid, like I can't be taking care of another child for the rest of my life, But I may love you, whatever,
but you see, like, so his progress is all dependent on your opinion. So like, what if at 3 years or 4 years, that may be too long for you, but maybe he's going to blow up the 5th year. But you already know this for women, that if a man's not meeting his ambition level or his ability to take care of you, there's a lot of complaining. There's a lot of nagging. There's a lot of pressure. And that's going to be a very toxic relationship for a man. And that's why for a lot of men, they avoid women like yourself, or they date women who are just in their level or below. Because for men, like, we date down, women, they date up. And honestly, like, we don't care. I don't care about a woman's ability to take care of me, because that's what I bring to the table. I prefer to do that. So it's not insecure. So it's not insecurity. It's just we have different things we're attracted to, and there's also big risk if you go against our biology of what we are attracted to. And nameless, I see there's a guy named Nameless Protagonist.
Yes, that's me right here. My apologies.
No worries. Do you mind turning your camera on real quick?
He has a great point.
Well, I don't normally, I normally don't do camera if that's a problem. I am a content creator here on YouTube, so I mean, you can verify me through my content if you like. I just wanted to contribute to the conversation, that's all, because you were making some interesting points.
Oh yeah, no worries. Yeah, you know what? Go ahead and share your thoughts real quick.
So there's a really good book that's validating a lot of the points you're making. It's known as The Richer Sex by Lisa Mundi. And I'll put that in the chat for you.
No worries.
Richer Sex, Lisa Mundi. And what she found with her study of the trending that's taking place with women being in a position to become breadwinners, they found that even though they entertained the rhetoric of egalitarianism, i.e. they wanted to see a 50-50 distribution of gender responsibilities, what they found was those relationships didn't last as much in circumstances where the woman was the primary breadwinner, because for whatever reason, provider men just was not as palatable in general to these women. As much as men were willing to perform that role, women were not as likely to tolerate men being in that, I'm going to say, supportive rather than submissive position, but supportive position. If the man is not taking initiative in some way, this man is classified scientifically or maybe in the limbic system as being a child still, because we know that in the relationship, the woman's resources are generally kept for hers.
Yeah.
And even if she's willing to take that initiative to use her resources as a primary means of establishing that household's trajectory, there's still an expectation that that man is supposed to either match or have the potential to match. And if that's not there, it creates a imbalance of the power dynamic between the two. And I think that's what you're trying to articulate. And I really advise people take a look at that book, because this is a very consistent pattern, not just in the West, but globally.
All right, no worries.
They lose attraction and they lose respect. For some instance, if all girls are on a meeting or just hanging out with the girls, and like 4 of them says, oh, on Valentine's Day, my boyfriend took me here, my boyfriend took me there. And on the last girl, she has to say that she took her boyfriend to somewhere, she's going to be a little bit hippie, or because the other girls are going to smile, laugh at her, going to say, oh, but you need to get a better husband or a better boyfriend, because our boyfriends take care of us, but you don't have that at home. So he talked about a book, but there are studies here in Europe that when women get promoted on the job and pass to they go to the supportive, to the principal earner on the house, like the divorce rate skyrockets. And that shows like the true nature of what she was saying and what you say, Will, that is temporary. Men are based on reality. If tomorrow I'm well off financially, but I don't have Rihanna money. If tomorrow Rihanna came off my front lawn and said, hey, you want to date me? I would have sex with her. I would date her casually, but I will never go be her man, because I know she's way above my limit. And I say, okay, this is just a fling, and I'm going to get back on my lane and do what I have to do. I think women usually are not realistic about that. They don't know what their lane. They have a taste of somebody that's or super rich or super cute or as fame or as a blue check, and then they get distracted by what they want. There's a fallacy called, here in Portugal, let me put this in English, the red car fallacy. When a woman goes to usually when a man go to buy a car, he goes to the stands and he knows exactly what he wants. I want a nice car, BMW, this color. Women usually go to the same shop and they say, I want a red car, but they see a green Lamborghini and they say, woo, green Lamborghini, yeah, but maybe I want that. And when women say, I want an honest, I want a respectful, I want a friend, I want this, I want that, it's the same thing about the red car. They value the red car, but if a green car shows up and he's 6 feet tall, he has a lot of money, and when women say money, when women hear money, they have like an adverse reaction. Forget the money. A really nice house with a pool, you can go to vacations 3 times a year. He has a nice car. You can put your kids on a nice private. You see, it's very different. And usually you can say, oh, his money doesn't matter, but the conditions of living that he's going to offer you matter a lot for women. So when you say, I want an honest and guy, you have to be have that in mind, that usually that's not for what you guys usually go. And when you go there is I don't know, Frankie, she has French fries. She basically summarized what usually happens. She said, my friends were with the bad guy and they run around, and so many years later, they went to the good guy. The thing is, why should I wait 10 years when I can be the devil and get the results at 20 and not at 30?
All right, so thank you, Claudio, man, in Nameless Protagonist. Thank you for dropping. I want to ask the ladies, what's your, you guys, what are your responses to what was discussed about men carrying not well. And I know what that's what Kiko said. You know, men who when a woman makes more money than a man in a relationship, men are seen for women. They say that those men are insecure. But what me and these guys just explained, it's not about insecurity. It's just there's a different dynamic to it, especially when it comes to sexual dynamic, different dynamics between men and women. So I just want to hear your opinions. I'll start with you, Channing. What are your thoughts?
It's a difficult one. I think that, you know, for me personally, I want to be taken care of. It's like a big thing for me, you know, it's
Yeah.
how I grew up because I am quite traditional. Like I want someone to go to work, come home,
Yeah.
you know, and I think because of the current state of the world we're in, you know, it doesn't mean if you want to be taken care of that you're not a powerful woman or you're not, you know, strong or independent, because you can be that, but you can also want to be taken care of. Like, you know, there are specific gender roles, and I think people will get a little bit touchy with this, but there are gender roles. And, you know, I get a lot of, can I swear? I don't know, I get quite a bit of shit for it from people when they're like, you don't need a man to take care of you, but like that's what I want. You know, it's weird if someone's paying with daddy's credit card when you're in your 20s, you know, and it's weird because what do you want? You want to build a future with someone, you want to have a nice house, you want to have a nice car, you want to have children that you can send to good schools. So if somebody's coming along and slacking in that perspective, you know, it's a complete turn off. You don't want that. Like I said in the beginning, financial stability is important for me because it's like you don't want to feel, you know, it's such a personal preference, and I don't judge anybody for maybe wanting to be the main breadwinner in things, but I personally have always just wanted to be the princess in the story, you know, someone who gets helped through things, and you know, that's how I grew up, and that's how my grandparents did, and it's something that I want too. So
yeah, I know you said that there's some women out there that say that you don't need a man to take care of you. I'm about to say like something that's like an uncomfortable truth. Every single woman wants a man that takes care of her. Even the women that have money, even the women that have a high socioeconomic status, you know. But the problem is, you know, for the most part, women always want to date in the same level or above. So even the women who don't need a man financially because they got their own money, they still want men who are in the same level. But the problem is those men in the same level or higher than those women, they got options from a lot of women. So like, but then it's like they have options because they're in that level, and women care about a woman's socioeconomic status. So the problem most men, they don't care about a woman's ability to provide and have money. So a man that has money or higher than those women, they got options to more attractive and physically attractive women, which is what the things that we are sexually attracted to as men. Just a lot of women don't understand that, and if they meet a guy that doesn't want to date her because she has her own money, we get labeled as insecure, which is not true. It's just we don't find that attractive.
yeah,
And
I'm all
you
for
said
it, you know.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I'm all for like girl empowerment and girls working and earning more in the workplace and everything. But it's like, for me personally, to some extent, like you want to come home at the end of the day and even though share that success with someone, you know, you want to be able to pay for things to your own extent and say, okay, I'm established with what I want. But, you know, if you want to have children with someone or a house with someone, you know, you want that to kind of be taken care of. And it's a very traditional idea, and the world's definitely changed and changing. But, you know, there's always going to be that few like myself, you know, who want that kind of layout. Like it doesn't mean that you have to be a housewife and you have to stay home, you know, and you have to look after the children and cook and clean. You know, you can have a job, you can have this, but you can still want, like you said, to be taken care of. So
you said a few, but I think there is a lot. They just are afraid because if they tell that on the West, they are going to be shamed by other women. That's just the first. Because the thing is, when I'm a funny case, because when I was like younger, I was in great shape, but I didn't have money, and I had some type of woman. Now I have more money, but I'm not in great shape, so I have another type of woman. And even the families that usually date me, when they come around and they see, they try to compete, but when they see they can compete, because I am more money than them and they can compete with me, and I offer them the opportunity to settle and take it easy, they are looking at their job and say, yeah, maybe I'm going to stay at home and do, you see, because they can be very boisterous and talk and say, I don't want this, I don't want this, I don't want this. But when Mr. Gray comes on that helicopter, they are going to be swooped right away, because that's the talk about conditional submission. Oh, if he brings me this and that and that and that, maybe I'll submit to him. To the right man, there's a saying in Portugal that says, there's no difficult woman. She is difficult for some guys, and she easy for other guys.
Yeah. Yeah.
I want to say something.
Go ahead, Francesca. Go ahead. Share your thoughts.
Oh my God, so much to cover. I don't really agree with Claudio, with all due respect. I think I see where he's coming from, and yeah, he might have encountered a lot of women who are in fact might be very just, you know,
materialistic.
In that boat of materialistic, yeah. But I met so many women who it's because it's really easy to just narrow it down and say like, oh well, you know, it's because, you know, I didn't have enough money of her and then that things didn't work out. But I can guarantee you that, let's say, you know, that you meet a woman and the woman makes a lot more money than you, but first of all, from the very beginning, the expectations need to be clear. If you're the kind of person to say, oh yeah, I'm only making this much money, but I am working on this career, or I'm working on this job, and eventually I want to be able to make this much more money, or I want to be able to become this, you know, if you said that from the very beginning, but then she sees you being lazy and playing video games all day and being da-da-da, and not really, because, you know, my fiance likes to watch this one guy who's called Wes Watson, and he says, show me a man's habits and I'll show you his future, right? So if your habits don't really go align with what you're saying, then I feel like that's where a lot of problems lie. But I know a lot of women, if you're like, let's say you're, I don't know, a mechanic or whatever, and you only make this much money a year, and you're always gonna make this much money a year, and you let her know from the beginning, this is what I want to be, and I want a simple kind of life, and you know, if you want me, you're gonna take me as I am. And I'm sure that if the woman really likes you, like really likes you, she'll be okay with it. However, if she works more than you and she comes home and you work a little less, or you happen to have more free time, and both of you are working, in our relationship, both of us work, and there's a lot of sharing of tasks. So what really works with us, and a lot of people admire, is the fact that, you know, they always say like, oh, Martin, he's so in tune with his feminine side because he does dishes, he does laundry, he helps me cook many times, he takes care of our pets, he does a lot of things that the common man doesn't. So a lot of people even see him, that they think that he does more chores than me. And I say like, hey, sometimes he does those more chores than me because I have a lot of side work on the computer to do that he cannot do. So we are 100% a team. Whatever I can do, he does. Whatever he can do, I do. So we're always cooperating. I never see how much more money he makes than me. That's never been a matter of that. Even when I was in school, and
do you guys split the bills 50-50?
We pay the bills together. Like it's one account. We pay them together. So
but the thing I usually ask is because even like 3 or 4 weeks ago, I was talking with my partner. He has the same kind of relationship where it's the same account, but he pays like the rent, he pays the light bill, he pays the internet. So the heavy bills come from his money, and the like the water stuff that like is a little bit low on the low, the gas she pays. And then when they go see the remaining budget, he has a lot less money than her because he paid the rent, he paid. So I just wanted to see the dynamics on your relationship to understand it.
I feel like in that situation, like where we've been together for so long, and it's a little different because we pretty much build everything together. So there was no like, I make more money than you, so I should only pay this and that. We from the very beginning we did one account, and he trusted me to I'm really good at administrating money, and I'm really good with credit. So I built this credit. So he trusted me. I was like, you want to make money, you have to trust me to be able to, just take over the bill. So everything he came to me, and I organize everything. A lot of relationships doesn't work that way. Sometimes, if the relationship is fairly new and, you have your job and the other person's job, and it's better to just kind of say, hey, you know what? Bills 50-50. That's it. But just like bills get 50-50, chores on the house get 50-50. So everything should be 50-50. Now, when it comes to, let's say, going out and one person makes more money, then it has to be a dynamic where, like, whoever wants to, idea is to go out should treat, right? If I make more money and I want to go out, then I treat. Then I will treat him to go out and things like that. That's where it comes to, like, if you're with a person that seems to make a lot of remarks on money, then maybe you're the wrong person. The importance in a relationship is not like, how much more money am I spending on this relationship than you? It's more like, how much effort are we putting in this relationship?
I want to make
you shouldn't be with a person that is making a lot of remarks on, like, oh, so and so bought her boyfriend bought her this, and when are you gonna buy me this? And then that's just not, if you're not about that life, then you shouldn't be with a person like that.
But it's not about remarks, it's about peer pressure. If I'm with Will, Nameless, and Taniela, and we are both on the same factory, and I see them doing well, treat the wife well, have a nice cars, the kids, I'm going to want something from a family too, like them. You see, and that's a problem. It's not because you guys are on the great relationship for what we can see, but the thing is, usually women are not like that. Women are social beings. They listen a lot to what their girlfriends say. They listen a lot to what's going around. That's why Instagram for women is toxic as fuck, because they constantly compare their lives. Even if it's great, I get a BMW, I give it to her, and she says, but my friend has a Lamborghini and I want, you see, it's very complicated like that.
Yeah,
so fear of better options.
The most important thing is that you have good communication. Like I said, your partner should be your best friend. So, we all go through little moments. I'm like, oh, so-and-so went on vacation. I wish we could go on vacation, or whatever, it is that she saw on social media. And you can be like, hey, babe, you know what, that you can just talk about how you feel about what she's saying, and hey, this is what you want, we can plan it together. It should be a matter of, like, you guys having communication together. Maybe she just wants to talk about something.
So I want to
person, if you're not in a financial situation where you can just blow money, and here, babe, here's a Louis Vuitton, and here's a brand new car, and here's all your dreams and whatever you want. And although you shouldn't be doing that, even if you have the money. But if you just really like the person and to make things easier, a lot of people just do it, right? But if you make, average money, and you're with a person that, cares too much about those things, you really have to think about, definitely having a conversation with her. Like, we're like, okay, let's talk, right? Will you be with me if I didn't have money? You gotta be very straight up. If we can just have, let's say, if we didn't have to be struggling, but I didn't have all the money in the world, would you still want to be with me? That's really important, because at the end of the day, there's cases where people just, lose their money, go bankrupt, and as a couple, they stick together. And I don't know, but
the thing is,
somebody that is gonna want to be there for you.
I think we agree with you. We agree with you. But that's an ideal world.
What is the point being made?
That's an ideal world.
Yeah.
Like, everybody talks with each other. But the thing is, and just really quick to let the other guys talk. In ideal world, every man should agree with you. Yeah, we should talk, and we shouldn't be pushed by pressure and But the thing is, I saw that when I was working at the office, and they were super professional women. They didn't want to get babies, and the team leader got a baby. And after that, in 24 months, 7 or 8 of them got a baby. Just like that. And you see a lot of studies and articles that women are very, very, very conditioned by their movements. If you never
every human though, I feel like that's just
every human,
we tend to be more like followers, and it's like everybody's
men are more men usually the thing
yeah, let me make this point because you guys are making a point here that I was trying to interject in earlier. What we're talking about at the end of the day are trends. And Taniela, my apologies. I just wanted to get this out because it's I think it's going to help maybe give us a point to focus on. At the end of the day, there are exceptions to everything. And what we're observing right now are the trends. And we understand that not just in a psychological aspect. If you follow trends on the stock market and whatnot, you get interesting patterns in human behavior when you track it over time. Once it's tracked over time, you start to see a pattern emerge, and it'll follow things like the Fibonacci sequence. You can apply it to everything. You get other ratios that show up like the Pareto principle, where 20% of something will end up doing 80% of whatever insert verb. So what we're talking about are the trends in the aggregate. So yes, you can have an individual that performs as an exception, and you're not wrong, but it does this odd thing, kind of like particle wave theory, where a particle behaves like energy or a wave until you focus on it. And the moment you focus on it, it becomes a particle and it behaves just like you expect. This is what happens when the individual becomes lost in the aggregate. What we're talking about is the trend. So we know if the limbic system, which is the emotional part of the brain, is pretty much on autopilot all the time, we know that that's primarily what we're talking about, the nature of the limbic system. It doesn't invalidate the existence of the limbic system because you have a prefrontal cortex, which is brand new and has a great deal of force that can interject on the limbic system. What we see is that human beings will interject based on their values, their discipline, and their conditioning. And we know that for a fact, women are far more subjective to have a greater level of power and influence in that limbic system because her value system is predicated on a completely different algorithm than a man. That's why we talk about concepts such as if you've got a woman and she ends up having or offering sexual access to a man who was above her grade, she will then psychologically interpret her position and reassess her position in the social hierarchy to that level that she slept with. That is the impetus. That's the limbic system operating right now. Are there exceptions? Obviously. But what we're talking about is that limbic predisposition, because men don't work that way. We will get with somebody that's well above our grade, and we don't reassess our position in the social hierarchy because of that one instance. We might do that if we come across a massive amount of resources. And this is why in the modern world, you start to see things such as incongruence, where if you haven't been acculturated to the role socially you're trying to aspire to, you come off as odd. And this is where we get the conversation about these individuals that may demonstrate behaviors that are synonymous with having power and authority, even though they may not have that, i.e. men who get, quote, pre-selected, and then other dudes who may not have those dispositions, even if they're in these positions of power. And the last point I wanted to make, and I'll try to tie this up as quick as I can, you do get other scenarios, other fractals of behavior when we get into the male-female power dynamic. For example, there are many women who are very uncomfortable being with men who are breadwinners, to the point where they prefer to be with men who are in a forever role of trying to get there and never do, because these men become psychologically subjective to these women who do control the resources. It's almost kind of like it's really a form of abusive relationship, but it really stems from, well, I'll put my subjective opinion here. I believe it forms from a lack of control and security. So they go after men who do not have the ability to control the relationship financially so that they can be in this promised position of almost getting there. And they go through this constant rotation of dudes who are in these positions to try to succeed, but never do. But they're able to provide for her on a physical level, and they may match her imprint, possibly even an abuse imprint from the past. So these are all very normal trends to see in the modern era. And I think it's doing a disservice to the conversation to not acknowledge those dynamics and understand that we're not really focusing on the exception. We're focusing on the trend, that limbic predisposition. Go ahead, fam.
No worries. Yeah.
I see where you're coming from, and I do agree that definitely there is. I guess you guys are talking about what is more common, what really happens.
Generalities.
Right?
Most people.
My argument is not to say no, that's not happening. It's more like to pretty much tell people that when you feel in this situation, this is what you can do to break that vicious circle. Just how back in the day, it wasn't common for a woman to work. It was rare or weird, or they were seen as, feminist, or even, like manly women would work. And now it's common that women work. So I really feel that the second we start making it, giving people these tips and advice, and giving people these like, hey, you know what? It's not that, it's not this, it's not just, that you think it was just that, or didn't work. But there's things that you can do to make a relationship work. We're like, because at the end of the day, I feel like as humans, we seek company. It's not no matter. Yes, people want money, stability, people tend to be materialistic and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, once you get past that materialism phase, you end up. I feel like most rich people do not want to be by themselves, right?
Well,
they want to be with somebody.
Most people.
So many cases that of, let's say, women, right, that dedicated their lives to their career and and at the end of the day, they end up finally say, okay, now I want to get married. Now I want to find a partner. So everybody eventually wants to look for a partner. I've seen people that I would think like, this person never wants to get married, and they end up like, so as humans, even animals, we seek love. We want to be loved. So humans, we can be complex, and we can be, difficult. And sometimes it seems like, oh, it's a money situation, but it's not always a money situation per se. It's more like the dynamic that you have with the other person.
But the point that was being made here is that at the end of the day, there are consequences for making that decision, and that's the fallout. To prove your point and really highlight it, ultimately what we're seeing here is that the culture, the civilization has outpaced the speed at which the culture can come up with a response to the changes due to technology. Within 20 years, we've seen more changes occur to the social environment of human beings than the last 100. I don't think people are appreciating that we're still operating on millions of years old software. You have to have a cultural response to address what you're talking about, because these needs, these predispositions that are there in the limbic system formed millions of years ago. And now we've got these scenarios where there's overstimulation to access of people. There's too many opportunities to make certain gender roles redundant. And it leaves people to boil themselves down to the lowest common denominator. And what happens to society is it ends up actually going backwards as far as its sophistication goes. Kind of like how our bodies weren't designed to have non-refined sugars, and you get diabetes and insulin resistance because you don't find these sugars in nature. So you can have kind of a social diabetes because you're being exposed to things that didn't exist, that the culture doesn't have a response for, such as speed dating and online dating on a cell phone. That has created issues with trust that never existed 50 years ago, let alone 20 years ago. That now you have to go above and beyond to form layers of communication with each other that many people have not been raised to utilize, because the culture is making the assumption that you're walking into a dating market that existed 50 years ago. And it's changing literally by the year. But fam, I didn't want to over talk, and I know Tan has to
I'm not going to talk anymore because this guy is.
I'm gonna pass it on to the next. But pretty much like just to break it down to everybody out there that's watching, like, it's just the culture has changed, but our biology it's still the same. So that's why we're always trying to that was the point I was making to Geico. She said that a lot of she makes her own money. A lot of times she dates guys who don't make the same as much money as her, and they often don't last in a relationship, or to her it may feel insecure. And what we're trying to explain is because of our biology and the years of evolution, men, we are not attracted to a woman's ability to make money. Now, the culture has changed today. Women can make jobs, can get their own career, but what women have to face now with their own biology is they only want to date men with the same level as them. So the higher they go up in the socioeconomic status, the men that they want and attracted to, that's a small minority of men. But the problem is the sexual attraction is not symmetrical. Like just because as a woman you have money and you care about it and you're ambitious, and a lot of women think that that's what men are looking for. It's symmetrical, but it's different. Men, we're not sexually attracted to a woman's ability to make money in her socioeconomic status. We care more about youth, fertility, of her ability to be physically attractive, her femininity. And that's why a lot of those women don't understand that. And then when those men don't pick them, what do they always say? I don't need a man. Right? I don't need a man. I can do everything on my own. Those men are insecure. But that's why we have to have this discussion and when you talk to men, it's like, no, we're not insecure. I'm just not into that. I'm looking into something else. But yeah, ladies, I do want to go to you guys and bring up your topics and your questions. Channing, we'll start with you. I know you have a question, a topic you want to bring up. And thank you for being so patient, Channing.
I love listening to. I love listening to the different perspectives.
I told you guys they're going to come on. Some of these guys are going to come on, and they're going to see their.
But that's the thing. I think you need to be challenged, and to kind of. You don't form an opinion unless you're challenged by it, or how you were brought up, or everything. Like who you want to date based on people who you have. What you do and what you don't want is based on past experiences. So I love listening to it. What my kind of prompt, I guess I want to say is standards, like going back to that. A lot of time people will say like a girl's standards are too high. And a lot of my friends will say to me, if you don't lower your standards, you're never going to find anyone. Do you think that it's okay for a girl to have high standards and continue looking, or is there a point where it's unreasonable?
Okay, all right. But before I move on to the guests, well, what are your standards? Just like so we know the specific standards of what for yourself.
For me, it's just like I keep going back to, but very, very traditional. Also very financially stable. Very established. Like I want somebody who's quite established in themselves. Someone who doesn't have a body count of 60,000, and somebody who isn't a party animal. Who's very much my personality and wanting to travel. Like, just like that overall. Everybody has. I like to say everybody has that one celebrity or that one person where they like. If they gave me a chance. Like that would be my person.
Don't say the guy that is the Superman guy, Kyle or something like that. Don't say that guy.
No. It's like, okay, I'll give you an example. It's like, for me, it's like Vinny Hacker. I don't know if you know who he is, but on TikTok, but like to me, like my standards, because he exists, is like no lower and like higher from him. So you can imagine when you look at him, it's like, toned, good body, sweet, kind, good heart. Money, obviously, not really that important in that respect, but just, so he presents himself so well to the world. Like he's got, such a good established social media, but at the same time, like he's just like a regular person and he makes that known. So it's like, with everybody's one person, with their standards, is it unreasonable to compare it to someone who they may not ever date, if that makes sense?
Let me ask specifics, because we're talking about standards, and I have to ask the tough questions. Since we're talking about being real on this podcast. So you say about a man's ability to make money and be well off. Like, do you have a specific number? And to be honest, like 6 figures. Like what's the number you look for?
It's difficult because I have a different currency.
Well, yeah, I mean, in your currency, like, what do you look for? What's the specific number?
Say it in dollars if you know
the.
I don't know. The dollar here is like 12 rand.
I mean, just in South Africa, like your currency. Like, what do you look for?
it's so difficult. Like I don't think I can measure it. Just I'm a bit
What's the
naive with how
minimum
much.
wage and how many
I mean,
times that
what's the
you-
what's the average man makes? Like
Yeah.
in America, the average salary for the average guy in America is like 40 grand. I think. $40,000.
South Africa is very, very, very financially in turmoil. I want to say that. I'll Google it now, but it's very low. I think our minimum wage is 6 rand an hour. So the average, it says on Google that it's 24,000 rand a month. So that is about 1,000. It's about $1,000 a month
4,000 a month.
is how much South African men are earning. Just
No,
on average.
yeah, but I'm just like for you, like, what do you prefer? Like, that's gonna make you happy to be with him. How much does he have to make? How much does he have to make? Let's be honest.
Still
It's
at an
okay.
age, so I'm still at an age really where I don't really understand like how much like money is. Like my parents, I still live at home and things like that. So I'm not really a number for me. It's like either going to be astronomical because I don't really know the value of money yet, if I'm being honest. But I think somebody who could afford 4-bedroom house, a decent working car, it's like could send children to school. So somewhere around where they're earning comfortably enough that they can go on holidays, they can buy things that they want above what they need, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So roughly six-figure USD.
So middle class, it looks like a upper middle class.
Yeah.
Upper middle class.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. What about his height? What's the height that you're looking for? What's the minimum you would date?
With height.
Huh? Height.
Height, yeah.
Height. You see, it's hard. I can give you in meters. I'd say.
Yeah, I can translate it. No problem.
Okay.
What's the meters?
I'd say 5'11", 5'10", 5'11".
180. Yeah.
All right, so 5'10".
That's
the average guy is like 5'7", 5'8", and okay. All right. I'm just trying to get some, to get some context because we're talking about standards.
180.
Okay, so 5'11".
Well, I see what you're doing, and I appreciate it.
Not
by the way.
60.
No,
not
it's okay.
60 body counts.
All right. So 5'11". So 5'11". Anything less, you're not gonna date that guy. So the dating pool of all men below 5'11". Okay.
I mean, yeah.
Upper middle class. Okay, upper middle class. He has to be traditional, and no and not a high body count.
Not to be a slut.
Don't be a man whore. Okay.
Just not a party boy. I hate them. I don't know what it is. It's like if you go out partying every night, like one who's just going to play golf on Sunday. He's just
all right.
Yeah, that's like.
Okay, so fellas, I'm gonna pass this on to the fellas.
You're gonna like my brother.
So wait, Channing.
Okay,
Channing, do you know that men that actually meet that criteria you're asking about? Do you just give a general guess? What percentage of men you think actually
meet that criteria?
In that criteria that you described?
Oh yeah, it will be like something stupid, like 0.75.
No, to give an honest guess. Don't seriously.
Yeah.
Like in all honesty, give an educated guesstimation of what you think.
So let's go down the list again. Upper middle class,
right?
5'11",
6 figures, 5'11",
6 figures,
and has a behavioral disposition where they're high on agreeableness.
Traditional
and high on agreeableness.
And not a man whore.
Okay. Right. High on agreeableness.
Okay.
Just give a percentage. What do you think?
Yeah.
Like globally.
No, where you're at in South. We'll use South Africa, but then we'll compare South Africa. Yeah. And then we'll compare that to the globe.
And he didn't ask about the color of his eyes, the color of his
We're not even gonna go into all of that.
Yeah, we
already know.
Basics.
But go ahead.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Channing.
In South Africa, 2%.
She's kind of spot on.
Yeah,
very close.
She's pretty spot on. It's actually smaller than that in the United States and in the West in general.
What did she say? Is that
2%. It's about 1% of men meet that in the United States.
She's very close.
Yeah.
And I want you to
put everything through a filter. It's tiny.
Now, Channing, what was your question? Are my standards reasonable?
Like on my stand, like not specifically mine, but it's just, do you think that you should lower your standards like if you have this idea of someone you want or something you want, do you think you should lower your standards if people think it's unattainable? Because then if you're lowering your standards, you're never really going to find someone. But if that person doesn't live up to your standards, you're not going to want to be with them. So
here's the only thing we have to say about that. There is a difference, and we talked about this earlier about imprinting. We know that women are generally speaking hypergamous, and that is the definition of what you're describing, hypergamy.
Yeah. Well, I'm studying psychology.
Right. So in a healthy environment where her general availability of men is going to be relegated to an immediate 30-something miles from where she lives and maybe an extended 100 miles. This is what we evolved for. That is the system that hypergamy was calibrated for. In this modern environment, the standard can continue to scale infinitely. And here's what happens. 20% of the men meet the definition of what you're looking for in general. They're the ones that even show up and register on radar. Amongst that 20%, there is a 20% within that becomes the new focus of what you try to attain to. It's just like this. If you take a look at the space between your thumb and your index finger, what happens is the idea of getting the ideal person becomes traveling from thumb to the tip of the index finger, right? But the logic is in order to get there, you have to reach halfway to that point, correct? But then to reach that point, you have to go halfway to that point. And then you have to go halfway to that point. And what ends up happening is you completely forget about the initial goal of reaching to the other side of the index finger, and you get caught up in the infinite space that's between the thumb and the forefinger. That ends up being the issue. You can have this system of expectation scale infinitely, and the problem is this: women are on a biological clock, generally speaking, for children. And if your value to men in general isn't related to the material assets you can acquire, but the physical characteristics that are a synonym for your fertility, that's where the issue lies. You have to balance that expectation with your actual value relative to what it is you want and what you can get. And what you don't want is, since again, you're on a time-sensitive basis, for you to run out of time before you make a decision. That's the issue.
No, I agree. I agree.
Okay.
That's why I asked, because it's I continuously get told that I need to lower my standards, but I think
How old are
I
you, by the
agree
way?
with what you said. I'm
How old are
19.
Are we going to talk about the jawline of this Vinny guy? He's
No, we already know. We already know what that jawline looks like.
Wow, I was like, what?
That's
Not
just
even go there. That's
she just described Chad.
Yeah.
But I mean,
really.
he was on a podcast the other day, and what was so like profound to me was he said, he is so like he knows he's good looking. The world like kind of puts him on a pedestal because he's good looking, but he will stay single, and he doesn't care how a girl looks. He doesn't care how much they make, as long as they see him for like who he is as a person and not his looks. And that's what I found really interesting. Like that was kind of the exception.
Single or
we were
celibate?
talking about.
Single or celibate?
Single.
He's single and celibate both.
What I'm very interested in him is like because I'm sure he's still having sex, even though he's let's be honest. And I want to see the type of woman he has sex with. That's what I want to see. That would give you a general map of like what he's interested in.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like girls are throwing them at him every single day. Every day in his DMs, you can imagine the videos, the fangirls, but he just won't do anything. He won't talk to any girl. He won't do anything because he's, so afraid that it's just his looks.
Is your
and
age
that
too?
to me is like,
Is
I don't
your
know.
age
I'm
too?
not too sure. I'm sure he's making a decent amount.
We got clout. Clout's a new social currency.
I'm afraid he's going to turn like Billie Eilish. Do you know that she was like very conservative and she didn't want to talk about it, her body, and then she lost a little bit of weight. Their boobs starting to come out, and now she's gone forever. So I don't know if the guy is going to be the same, but he's pretty young, and he's sorry.
You go take a look at the back chat. The back chat, if you can take a look where it says the chat there. He posted a link of what we're talking.
Yeah,
Hey,
I just sent a photo.
Let me. I do want to pass it on to Daniela. Daniela, you've been quiet.
Yeah, my man's
So-
been the patience of
So,
Jesus.
Yeah. So Daniela, let me give. I want you to share your thoughts on her standards. Go ahead, Daniela.
Daniela. Who's Daniela?
um,
Oh,
as much as women in the modern day era like to think that they dictate the dating market, you actually are at a very big disadvantage. And the biggest contribution to that is casual sex culture. So when you hear comments of you have to lower your standards, that is coming from a subconsciously motivated place where men have access to sex moreover than they have previously in the past. There is no more social contract between men and father in order to gain access to sex and long-term relationship. Generally, the men who underwent this sort of practice dedicated majority of their young adult life to the courting phase. So that prompted them to invest a very large amount of their time to whoever they were pursuing at the time. Therefore, cheating wasn't very logical options for men at the time. Now, we can talk about exceptions, but that, like Nameless said, we are talking about trend. Hence why men that are considered traditional are more loyal in the sense that if they invest this much time, not only to themselves, but to the woman that they potentially will have sex with, then it does not make sense for them to go out and seek elsewhere. Whereas the sexual landscape nowadays is, you have OnlyFans. If you have a bit of money, if you look a certain way, you get access to women just like that. If you're known to have some sort of status in your social hierarchy or on the internet, then you have access to sex. So whether your standards are high or not, it really depends, like what the guys were saying. It really depends on what you bring to the table. What are these men that you have the standards for are attracted to? And do you possess those qualities? So if you want to gauge how high your standards are, gauge it based on what the men that you're trying to attract are currently looking for.
All right, no worries. Hey, do you guys know? You guys heard of the female delusional calculator?
Yeah, I saw
Yeah,
that.
the guys on Person Feet.
All right,
that
so
was
this
funny.
so this is website, and I'm about to put it live. You guys can all see where women can put their characteristics of what they look for on this website. And this website, it has all the data of all men of height and income and everything. And this website will actually tell you the probability of finding those men. So we're gonna use your example, Channing. I'm about to share my screen.
But this is less than 0%.
So I'm about to share my screen with you guys.
If people on TikTok in the future, somebody clip this part in, and then me dating someone with these standards.
I think this is very interesting. Can you guys see my screen?
Yeah, we can see it.
All right, so we're gonna put this. We're gonna put her characteristics. So what's the age that you look for?
22.
22 to what age?
22. I'd say 24. Yeah.
Nah, you are done. You are done. Right there, you are done.
Six figures. Six
All
figures
right.
at 25.
So of course,
No, let me stop.
So excluding married men, right? You don't want to date married men. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. All right. What color? Race? White, black, Asian? Any color shade?
Let's put white. Let's put white. Let's go to white.
Be honest. It's like, hey, it's your preference. I don't no judging you.
Yeah, no judging.
Nobody judging here. Let's keep it 100.
I think
Fred.
just based on my religion, I'd say white if I didn't want to be outed from my community, sadly.
Okay, white boy summer. Let's get it. All right. Minimum height. Oh, you said 5'11". All right.
No, minimum is 5'10". That's
5'10". All right.
5'10" is way better now.
Just exponentially went up in odds.
Exclude obese, so you don't want them to be fat, right?
Yeah. Oh god, this is like outing me.
There's no problem.
It's okay.
No, it's not just you. It's not just you.
Not
There's a lot of women out there.
This is
A lot of women
very
out there.
standard, which is our point. But go ahead.
Exclude obese, right? You
Okay.
don't want fat men, fat
Yes.
men. All right,
Yes,
okay.
yes.
No fat
Oh,
men. All
no.
right.
Okay, I feel so bad.
Minimum income, 100,000.
No. Because if you
Okay.
translate that to is this minimum income month, like per year?
No, in a
Annually.
year.
No, per
Annually.
year.
A year.
Per year.
Well,
Annually.
Okay, then
calculation,
100, yeah.
like
Okay.
the average salary.
All right. So we're gonna find out the probability.
You are very
Your
far away
mic's
from
very
the mic.
quiet.
Yes, your mic
Francesca.
is very
So
quiet.
Channing, you guys ready? Channing,
No.
your probability of finding a dream guy.
Oh no.
Hit it.
All right. Let's see.
Yeah.
0.27%. According to statistical data, the probability of a guy in U.S. male 20 to 25 meters stand is point. That's less than 1%. That's point.
This is
point.
normal. The thing is not having those. The problem is not
I
you.
mean-
You wanting this guy at 19 is normal, but
Normal, yeah,
there are
yeah.
a lot of women at 30, 33,
All want the
35
same man.
still looking for that guy.
But Claudio,
Yeah.
Claudio, here's the point we were making though. And I'm not saying this would happen with you, but understand that women your age are having sex with men that do have these things, and they end up imprinting to that point where they believe they can get a relationship and commitment and marriage from a man
Yup.
like that. And that's a dramatic difference. And
That's
it
what
is
you said before.
spoiling the market in its time. Back into what Taniela said about how originally the social contract was men to other men, where they were the keepers of the daughters, and the access to sex like that was done through arranged marriages because it was a tool utilized to merge family and aggregate wealth and power. That was the whole reason for having those social arrangements. But we're back again to when the Industrial Revolution came in, and essentially the role of genders ended up essentially becoming redundant, starting with men first. It began to make the idea of family far more optional. And you get what I'm going to describe as the Liger syndrome. What I mean by that is the Liger is a combination of a lion and a tiger, and the offspring end up being more powerful than both. The problem is, not only is their lifespan shorter, they're unable to procreate. And so you have done something that is on paper more powerful and far more calibrated to the modern environment, but you are undermining the bigger consequence of why we had relationships in the first place. And this is relating to the mismatch in expectation that we see in the modern era. And there's so many problems that are a fallout right now. And it ends up being that it creates this illusion that a woman can have it all. And perhaps if it's done in sequential order in a certain sequence, that's accurate and true, but you can't have it all at once. And
Chris
that's
Rock
where, go ahead.
No, I was saying Chris Rock has a bit about that. Like if he's in the club and he's like a regular guy and he sees Mariah Carey and he can sleep with her, like he goes home and he's not thinking, next week I'm going to get Rihanna, next week I'm going to get. Men usually know perfectly where they are, but women, if they experience a guy that has a really nice house, really nice cars, really nice lifestyle for 3-4 weeks, and then she has to come back to the regular guy, she rather die alone than to be with the normal guy.
Go back down. Yeah.
So two things I want to say on that to augment the point, so you can go back and research some of this, and maybe this can extend to a bigger conversation. If you're familiar with Dr. John Calhoun, he created something known as the Mouse Utopia experiments. And what you began to see is a lot of the behavior that was described just now, a dynamic known as the behavioral sink, where they recreated modern society with mice. And a lot of the issues that we see happening right now began happening with those mice, where men and women ultimately stop procreating with each other. And it began with this whole dynamic where you started seeing only certain dudes were actually doing the procreating with the women. And they were basically creating these harems. And eventually these dudes got so aggressive towards everyone that you started seeing degenerate behavior where they would attack everyone, including the women, to the point where it was just complete collapse over time. And all they did was emulate modern living conditions where these rats had food, shelter, they had plenty of space to move around and breed in, and every need they had was catered to. And he was able to repeat this experiment 25, 26 times, and the same thing happened over and over and over again. And I make mention of that to say that ultimately we're back again to this situation where at the end of the day, as society, rather, as the civilization continues to outpace the speed at which the culture can respond, you get these problems that manifest in the social environment. And this is part of what we're talking about. And I'm not sure how you dial that back once someone gets exposed to something. And the second point was to give you a illustration of how this plays out, because it shares the same neurological pathway. If you can understand porn addiction for men, that same neurological pathway that is feeding a biological predisposition that goes back millions of years is the same neurological pathway that women getting attention from men online in the form of social media forms. It is precisely the same thing for precisely the same reason, but it's like getting a burn from being too hot versus being too cold. They're both burns. The difference is the way you treat it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I'm studying developmental psychology, and one of the biggest arguments is it nature or is it nurture? And I think to some degree you can't ignore the biological factors that come with relationships and these types of things. But at the same time, you also can't ignore the developmental side. You know, girls will oftentimes, just psychologically, factually, will go for people who, are closer to a nurturing, person in their life, their mother, their father, their grandmother, or someone. So oftentimes how I use it, so usually how I like to describe it to patients and things is you want to treat your children in the way you want it to be treated. So, that it's kind of the same thing in finding a partner. You want to find someone the way you want to feel, if that makes sense. You want that to kind of match what you want. And that's why you can argue that it's biological, but there's also so many developmental stages throughout your life.
I think biological should be foundation, whereas nature should be foundation, nurture should be additional and supplementary. Yep. And I like the way that Nameless brings about the biological nature. And this is the biggest argument, one of the biggest arguments that I have with women is that when we delve away from the biological nature of men and women, we then blur the line of what actually caters to our nature. And one of the biggest things that we also have to learn about relationship is testosterone and estrogen, whereas each are for men and women. When you reverse the gender role, and it's, I think John Gray is currently a practicing psychologist who does marriage counseling. He talks a lot about this. When you reverse the gender role in relationship, women tend to regulate testosterone a lot more than the men, and the men tend to regulate estrogen, which goes against their biology. And that's why you find men and women in relationship where the gender role completely is reversed, that don't have sex often. Their sexual drive, their body is literally saying to them, you don't need this hormone that drives sexual attraction to each other, so therefore you don't need it.
It happens a lot in marriages. Yeah. When the woman can tame the guy, and when he becomes tame, she loses attraction for him because she's not the guy that she was before.
Yeah.
And the other biggest thing that we also need to look at with neuroscience is the function of oxytocin and vasopressin within the two gender. Oxytocin only promotes sexual activity for reproduction for men, whereas it's a huge motivator for women in their nurturing, in their ability to nurture. So when women have sex, so when they have sex, when they are touched often by non-sexually touched by their significant other, when they're treated to something nice, romantic, oxytocin regulations is promoted within the female body, whereas majority of the time it is when men ejaculate, that's when oxytocin is promoted in in their body. Whereas vasopressin is what draws men to bond with each other. And that's why you find men who are disagreeable within their own social group tend to trust and respect each other rather than the men agreeing with them. So if I was Will's best mate and he always tend to agree with him, then I would draw very less trusting and respectful of him. Whereas if Will was very disagreeable with majority of the decisions and the options, choices that I make, I tend to trust and respect him more. So when you throw that dynamic and a woman has that, and you're now in the sexual market trying to attract a man, it goes against his nature in the sense that he needs something to help complement his testosterone. Where now you've got two masculine nature clashing with each other in the opposite sex.
I agree. I think
so
it's.
I just wanted to say
Okay.
bye. Good night to everyone. It was a pleasure.
All right.
And
all
have a
right.
great night. Have a great night.
Have a great night, friends.
Nice to
Francesca.
virtually meet you,
Follow me.
friend.
Yeah, nice meeting all of you guys. Follow me on social media so I can follow you guys back. And yeah, it was very interesting conversation. And
Thank you very much.
No worries. Have a good one.
See you.
I wanted to
Sorry.
say, Channing, and Tan, to both of you, I think a excellent modality to bridge the points you're making, especially with developmental psychology, is to observe epigenetics. And epigenetics is the key with that. It is, I've done about 3 podcasts with a biological engineer, Dr. Nicole Ali, where we break that down in depth. And we start with the formation of child development and rituals and how it plays out in life. And we even extend it to the gut biome and breaking down the role of the vagus nerve with influencing psychological behavior with just the food you're eating, let alone the bacteria you inherit while you're in development in the womb. To break that down, and I'll just give the quick 2-step, your DNA is like a script. Epigenetics are like the actors that are performing the script. That's what the environment can trigger. So when we talk about nurture versus nature, it's not either or, it's both. That's all I'm saying. Go ahead, fam.
Just what about just like answering your question, to go back to the wheel topic? You shouldn't lower your standards. You should know what you qualify. Like if you're going on a job, if you said, do you think I should be an astronaut? We would not laugh, but say, come on, this is like 0.0000. If you said, okay, I want to be a lawyer on this firm, we'll go back to, okay, you need to average this at school to go to that college. So what you need to do first is get the best resume per se to qualify to such men. This man,
I get what you mean.
And
this
it's
guy
not
is
just a resume.
Yeah, this guy is untouchable. You can go, Daniel.
Sorry, just to add on, it's not just your resume. It's you have to also know that for the man that you're wanting, you also have tens of thousands of women wanting the exact same
You also
man.
do. Yeah.
So you're
That's
now
why I
competing in a
agree.
larger
Yeah.
pool.
I agree with everybody and your talk of, standards and like knowing where you stand. Because I mean, I just think of myself and how many DMs I'll get and how many messages. It's not like there's been no one, it's just been a matter of when you see someone and they don't fit your standards. So you don't go lower, you only go higher. And I think that's kind of, so I think everybody is a bit naive to say they don't know where they stand on a social hierarchy. I think everybody kind of knows where they sit. Like, it's no one will ever say it.
Most women don't. And that's what Nemo's talking about. 50 years. If you get 30 messages a day or 5 messages a day from guys, do you know where you at?
So Channing, how many messages on average do you get from random guys trying to slide in your
Let's go
DMs?
dinner. That's
like how many? Like, be honest, how many?
A day.
Okay, say
a week. Let's go
a week. Say go a week.
I can actually count for you.
Count.
Okay.
Okay, hold on.
Because Will, you know where we're going with this.
Yes, I know.
I have
Because I'm not about to ask the guys Huh?
I have 19 requests, and then I have
9
20
requests.
Oh,
from
okay,
people
okay.
She
So-
doesn't know.
All right, okay. So 19 requests from people she doesn't know, and let me ask the fellas real
30.
quick.
35 this week.
5 this week. All right. So let me ask the
Yes.
fellas. So
I can go first. Yesterday
How
I
many-
got a
how-
call from the.
so
the
look. We
pizza-
won't. I won't even say a week. I want to ask you how many do you get in a year?
the pizza company usually sends me messages telling me the promos and stuff like that. That's very
Yeah,
nice.
they say it's like that.
Man.
Everyone shares a new ambassador.
But
So Claudio, how many get a year, Claudio?
if the thing is, Instagram is very funny because with the reactions and stuff like that, when I travel a lot, and I usually travel a lot, I'm showing that I have a little bit of money, so I get a lot. But if I compare to the woman that I usually date, my phone is clean, no notifications, no nothing at the end of the day. If I look at the notifications, it's just like a trash can everywhere,
Oh,
on the floor,
no.
on the ground. It's just it's not even comparable. Not even comparable. So I would say initiated by a woman, 3, 1,
Three
and,
in a year.
and
In a
one
year,
is
right?
for my and one is for my sister. So
All right.
You know what?
so-
I think it's because I have a TikTok presence. I have, a little bit of a following, and I think because it's not like an astronomical one, people think like, that it's attainable.
they can get you. They
No.
think they are
Yeah.
attainable.
Well, here's the issue, and this is what we're kind of getting at. Women in this society have a baseline intrinsic value that she doesn't have to do anything for except be there and exist. Period. It is the dynamic of there being a glass ceiling, but in exchange, there's a glass floor. The exchange for that is that men overcrowd the very bottom of having 0, but they also overcrowd the very top. There is no safety net for men. Men are not even recognized as human unless they can present a measure of value to the society in which they're engaged in. And I don't think that's appreciated by the overwhelming majority of women at all. I think they grow up in a level to where maybe even biologically, they can't handle the chronic rejection that men go through by not being in a position of power or authority or holding some measure of extrinsic value in the hierarchy that they're a part of. I think it's why when you see individuals that get fired from jobs or they lose their status as breadwinner in a relationship via divorce, you see suicide rates being much higher among men than women do. And it's because there's a direct correlation between a man's value and his ability to provide. And I think it goes beyond just a social dynamic. Men in general are not seen as valuable unless they can produce something. Women, however, on the other hand, have a baseline value purely for the fact that there's a womb there. And the reality is, in general, it's men who are upholding that intrinsic value. And it's now that we're in this modern society that gets exasperated even further. Because like I said before, if porn is the social diabetes for men, then attention from men is the social diabetes for women. And so her social needs are able to get met vicariously online. And men, again, going back to that imprint dynamic, if they were in a position, this is going to resonate with you, Channing, if they were in a position to where they didn't get the social validation that they wanted to get from their mother, or if they were put in a position of having to perform a role they were never raised to be in or trained to be in, such as, quote, man of the house, because they were given that role by a single mother whose father wasn't there, then they are vicariously trying to get that approval by giving that attention to the women they come across online. And
Definitely.
I don't think people appreciate what that looks like when it's on a trend.
And it's an unconscious thing. I think people don't realize they're doing it. And I agree with you with men, not really. It's like there was the whole, I don't know if anyone's seen like the Jack Wright and Sienna May situation on TikTok. It's like Jack was sexually assaulted by her, but he said because he was a man, you know, it was kind of seen as like locker room, you know, chat and banter and like good for you and everything. But, you know, it's like a lot of men won't come out in these stories because being seen as less powerful, you know, a lot of women don't want to, you know, they don't have anything else besides, you know, that power or that role. You know, so I'd love to see if everybody's, you know, take on that also. That situation, I think it fits in quite well with this conversation.
The thing is, women can draw power from weakness. I'm weak. If I'm weak, Danielle and Will solve it for me. Oh, you did something to me? My brother are going to take care of you. You hit me? I'll call the police. You don't want to be with me? I'm going to the judge to take you off of your stuff. Women usually
call that proxy
power.
Violence. They call that proxy violence. Go ahead.
Women usually conflate power with me being physically able to handle you and kill you. Women have a lot of power because if they are weak, somebody's going to do the work for them. So the thing is, on that situation is normal because men know what's up. Men know if they're going to the police station and tell my woman hit me, the guy will be very concerned taking your call. And when you turn you around, everybody's going to be laughing. Oh, look at this guy. The woman is hitting him. You saw on the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard situation too. And usually this stuff happen. You guys are afraid of coming out and everybody tell you you are a liar. We are afraid of coming out and everybody call us like, you know, it usually happens nowadays. So,
and then girls can be violent. It's like I see like all these fangirls on TikTok, and it's like whenever like one of their celebrities start dating someone, the death threats that are thrown, and you know, people will say like girls are so, you know, like they're so submissive, and you know they want a good guy, but they themselves are also so rough. And that's the younger generation that I'm seeing a lot more than anything else. You know, they, because of Disney and these standards they put up and social media, you know, and the keeping the continuous movements of social media, like little girls will find it attainable to date a 19-year-old with 10 million followers. And the minute he dates someone, there's just abuse thrown and spewed out. And it's so, you know, in a female's DNA, not, you know, like we say that there's always exceptions, but if you're looking at a trend or you're looking at a niche, you know, specifically in TikTok.
Can I ask Will if we're going to talk about K-pop artists and their friends? That's literally what happens. If they get a girlfriend, man,
career's done.
The suicide rate
That's the thing. It's, you know, there's double standards. I think, you know, there's specific gender roles, and, you know, like I think there's a lot of misconceptions. You can still be a powerful woman and have a job, or you can still be a powerful woman and want to have children. You can still be an independent woman but want to have a husband at home. You can still, you know, there's so many misconceptions.
Here's the thing with that though, and I'm gonna chalk this up to an issue of modern society in the West. The Blue Book standard is not respected. At the end of the day, a dude is not turned on by a woman's education. They're not turned on by her ability to demonstrate power or independence. It does, at the end of the day, predicate itself on what physical characteristics initially she has that are related to her fertility. Because a man in the modern era is going to observe a woman for her potential to be a gateway into a family dynamic, which means her behavior has to be conducive to showing a secure gateway. If she is behaving in a way that would in any way implicate that she wouldn't fit that potential of being a gateway for his legacy, she's in a completely different category. She fits into a completely different undertone, which is why when we're talking about gender roles being performed, what you have to see, or what you observe in the West, is that most people, and women in particular, especially in the education system, are not being calibrated to be wives. They're calibrated to be partners. And there is a tremendous difference between the two. Because
I like that.
If you are a wife, you are raised to perform a role, which includes epigenetical, sociological, and familial predisposition and imprinting to perform that role. And that's what gives you that title, quote, traditional. This is why you can go into scenarios where money's not even in the conversation. You can go to a third world country and this undertone is understood because those roles were raised and taught from the very onset, including individuals being husbands. So what you have in the modern West are men are raised essentially to perform the role of a husband in the pre-industrial era, but the women are raised to be partners. And this is where you get these terms like strength and independence, because they're coming from an environment where those baseline needs, I'll defer to Maslow's pyramid of needs. You may be familiar with that, Chanley. Those bottom two needs of food and shelter are overemphasized. And as a result, those secondary levels of self-esteem and love and having a sense of belonging as it relates to the social order are seen as optional. And they're seen as modalities that can be used transactionally. And as a result, there is an atrophy of that application on a cultural level. And so these things get brought to the forefront, and she believes she is successful by getting a job, getting the education, and here she is in her 30s now, looking to get that love and everything that needed to be emphasized on from the very onset, and wondering why she's not getting these positions. And this is where we're getting that disconnect. You can have it all, just not all at once.
All at the same time.
You've got to sequentially address it. But go ahead, fam.
Yeah.
No, I would say this, like when you say just continue on what you said, you can't have it all, because I do notice a lot of the women I talk to, they have this notion that they can have it all.
Laundry list.
Yeah, and I always, I'm not knocking you, Channing, for your preferences. Those are your preferences. Those are your standards, right? But my question, when I meet women who have similar standards as you, and then they say their standards, I always ask them the question is like, how much are you willing to work for the man that you want, and for those that meets the standards and criteria you have? Because I think Claudia talked about it. Like that's the difference between men and women. Men, I think Nameless Protagonist said it, that men have to build their value, be sexually attractive, and women just have to preserve their value and just exist as women. That's the difference. And for men, we grow up in a very competitive market without a men, and we inherently know that we have to compete. We have to bring some type of value in order to attract a very attractive woman. And then men know that it's like, if you want the top tier, most attractive women, that you have to work for it, you have to build your value, you have to compete for it. And for a lot of women in the West, because of social media, conflating their confidence, like a lot of these women, they have all these DMs, they have this sense of, they think that because they get these DMs, they conflate that with their actual sexual value in the marketplace. And for men know that, like, if you want to compete in the top level and get the top tier women, men know that you have to level up and you have to elevate your social economic status. You have to go out there and earn money, right? We know where we stand, and also we know what we have to do, and we have to work for it. And for men, it's up to you, right? Like, if you want that, some men want it, and so they work for it. And men that don't work for it, they know where they stand, and there's not this conflation of, okay, I'm making this much and I can get that type of woman. No, they know exactly what they are. But what I've seen with women, especially in modern society, because of social media, because they get all these DMs from men, they think that they have the guy that they want, which is like we put on the calendar, which is like the guy that's less than 1%. They think that they can get him, but the problem is nature. It's like time. So over time, what they're going to realize is, as they get older and they know really and realistically based on probabilities, they can't find it. They can't find. Well, they can have sex with these men, but the problem is they can find it, but they're not going to get commitment. And the commitment, because this is the thing, is you have to compete, because there's things that men are looking for, and men know what women are looking for. Confidence, stability, socioeconomic status, leadership. Assertiveness,
nice
like we know, and these men we know we have to compete, so we compete. But what women have to understand in today is you have to compete as well. Is that whatever you want in a man, that if you want the top tier men, like that 1% men that you want, that's fine. But you have to compete. But the problem is a lot of these women believe that they can get it without competing. They can just exist without they are. But the problem is these men are not going to be attracted to you. So and then finally, when they realize that they're exhausted the sexual options because of their age, because as they get older, then that's when they realize, oh shoot, damn, that's when reality hits, and that's when they finally face reality. And but then that's why, like I said, for men, we get told this at a very young age. We told, hey, if you're a bum, if you don't make value of your life, you're not gonna get any. The probability of getting a good quality wife or a very attractive woman is probably very, very low if you don't work on these things. Well, this message is not telling these women. And the thing is, for a lot of women today in the West, just to close off my point, they're getting encouraged. Their behaviors that they're getting encouraged and powerful are the behavior that's not going to attract men, the good quality men they want. So men, we know exactly what behaviors that we have to learn and amplify and discipline ourselves to attract women. But in the West, the things that they tell women, like I think Nameless Protagonist said, independence, ambition, careers, which is fine if you want that that's why I don't have a problem with that as a woman.
A consequence.
There's a consequence, right? There's a consequence.
Yeah.
And then but the thing is, society is not telling them there's consequences. And if men speak openly about the consequences, we get shamed for it. We're labeled misogynistic. We hate women. But the thing is, men, we are told to our face by women, but the society, exactly when we make consequences, especially when it comes to the dating market.
And here's what I liked about what he said, and I want to emphasize this, because at the end of the day, human beings organize themselves three ways. One, age. Adults run the society, period. Two, men rule the society. Women provide the inertia. That's just generally how it's been in antiquity, how it is, period. Everything that's written on paper that could be described as females' rights, some dude had to sign off on it. Groups of men had to sign off on it. That's critical. The third thing is understood as arbitrary discrimination. And this is broken down into two primary phases. Channing, pay close attention to this. You have in-group men and women and out-group men and women. In-group men and women and out-group men and women. And what's key about this dynamic is that irrespective of the modality of division we're talking about, it could be politics, religion, a social group of any form. It could be ethnicity, race, people of different nationalities. They will organize between in-group and out-group within a male and female dynamic within each of these two spheres. And what's critical is that the impetus of power is initiated from the men in the in-group and projected against men that are in the out group. And what that creates is a in-group male dominant scenario and an out group subordinate male scenario, where men in the subordinate out group male position are the disproportionate recipients of all negativity, violence, and every social metric that could be classified as negative. And it is almost always initiated by the in-group men. So what you have is coalitions of men trying to maintain an in-group circle that encapsulates the in-group women and is warding off the out-group men. And that leaves the in-group and out-group women in an interesting position because they share much more in common with each other because they're female. And oftentimes, their dynamic of conflict comes from the fact that many women in the out-group can be targeted by men in the in-group and introduced, while men in the subordinate out-group are struggling to keep that from happening. If you look at every social dynamic that's happening in the modern world right now, this is the issue that's going down.
You need to go say that to the feminist group. They say the patriarchy rules. Like they don't understand it. They really
see what
don't.
I mean, man? It's men against other men. Go ahead.
Yeah. I just want to add, Channing, the easiest way for you, if you want to attract the male.
Chat.
Yeah, the Chad that you're after, then you're at a much better stage attracting junior and potential Chad right now, in the sense that if you can find someone that you are sexually attractive to, but not overly attracted to physically, is quite ambitious,
I mean, listen,
where
I'm
he-
not against anything, you know.
yeah, well, I'm
like I
just
said.
saying if the man that's out of reach, who's currently have all these qualities, there is a way to gain potentially the person you want, someone you are sexually attracted to, because that will sustain long-term relationship. Someone who's ambitious and will prioritize their values more than they will prioritize entertaining you. And the last one is, whenever he faces a problem, ask him to identify what he could do better. The way that he will discuss this with you is very important, because you can figure out what state of mindset he is on. If he's whining and complaining that other people are stopping him from reach his position of success or achievement, that's potentially someone that is not really as ambitious as the potential Chad. But if you find that he talks more about, okay, I'm missing this quality or this trait I need to refine more, that is the potential 1%er. And that's how you can identify that person. Someone you're attracted to sexually, ambitious, and talk about problems in a sensible way, where he wants to, he identifies the issue within himself, and he is putting down solutions in order to be better. That's the Chad 5 years, 10 years time from now.
Yep.
Yeah.
And he might be in the club partying, but majority of his time would be spent figuring out these values that he has to build in order for him to reach wherever that may be, the final destinations. And sometimes going to the clubs often introduce the social dynamic where men don't have to be socially awkward. And alcohol is, shamefully to say, can help introduce men to these environment and to help socialize them in a sense without the mental barrier of being outed without values.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I think my leaving message before I do have to go, because my iPad's gonna die.
No worries, no worries.
I agree with everything everybody said completely. I think it's such a difficult topic to talk about, because a lot of people aren't willing to kind of mend or bend, you know, or let some light shine in from other perspectives. Like, am I for feminism? Yes, I'm a woman. Are there some difficulties and extremists? Yes. You know, should men pay bills? Should they not? Should they? There's so many.
It's not about that. It's not about
Yeah.
that. It's about you are on a way better position than all your colleagues, because you are open to see what the other side wants. As soon as you sit on the table and say, Will, what do I need to do to get that guy? You are on a way better position than the hottie that everybody, because she doesn't care. She will not bend. She will be, instead of there's a very big difference. Those guys talk about feminists doesn't tell women to be individuals. There's a difference between being an individual that cares about another and being selfish. The partner is selfish. I'm a partner. If I win with this partnership, okay. If I doesn't win, ciao, bye-bye. You see? So looking about what everybody said in this discussion, just take 2 or 3 very important things about it. Is that you need to understand what the guy that you want from you. So you have to be in great shape. You have to be someone that doesn't have a social media presence, that is going to be scared. Like, you can get a lot of attention. We had this conversation like 3 or 4 programs ago. Women that have a lot of attention but doesn't have respect from their men. So they get attention, but the respect is gone. So they get there, they grab them, and they throw them away. So and you said you were studying psychology, right?
Yeah.
That profession has a lot of big earners, guys that do really well. So please use college and use all that stuff to get that guy before he gets there, because Jeff Bezos is right up there, but he was a nobody too. So get that guy. Daniela said, pick the guy that makes you wet and try to make him do stuff that make you happy. So it doesn't have to be the chisel Joe with 2,000 followers. Just get the guy that you are physically attracted to and try to fight what you want.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
Compromise. Long-term
Yeah,
relationships is
yeah.
all about
That's it.
compromises, where you both equally walk away with equal standing. That's
Yeah,
the key to
100%.
long-term relationship.
Yeah, I think the
Thank
term
you.
people like using for that is synergetic relationships.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
what you
You
find
have to be
people run into is,
interdependent.
yeah,
Mm.
what you find is a lot of people end up being in parasitic relationships. But Will
Yup.
said something profound I want you to remember, Channing, that men are in a state of acquiring experience, and that's what they're valued for. And women are in a state of preserving themselves, and that's what they're valuable for. If you can understand that
Yep.
there's a state of preservation that we hold dear towards women, to the point where women really only fit two categories in general. Women that are potentially seen as worth investing in our resources to have as a gateway for family dynamic, and those that aren't, for whatever reason. And that's key. That preservation point right there is what separates men and women, and they're not
Yeah.
the same with regards to that, but there's a purpose for that. Yeah, that's all
And
I
I
wanted
mean-
to emphasize. Go ahead.
Yeah.
And please
Yeah.
please don't confuse both. Please.
Yeah.
Like the
I mean,
the
this-
messages
yeah.
on TikTok, and please, that's the
Yeah.
biggest mistake.
Yeah,
It's
we've,
this is just like the surface of such a like in-depth and needed conversation in society. So, you know, it's very refreshing to kind of have people who will talk about it. I mean, it doesn't mean that we all terrible people, or we have like we all, from what I can tell of people who are willing to discuss and debate, have our own set of beliefs, but you know, willing
I'm
to
terrible.
engage and
I'm
listen.
terrible. I'm a terrible person.
I mean, you know, own it. I'm for that. But yeah, it's been really, really nice meeting all of you though. Definitely was so fun on my side, and you know, definitely the intellectual conversation I needed with people who are able to, you know, communicate. A lot of people can't, especially like, you know, the big macho boys who are like, no, I don't want to talk about that. So it was really, really nice meeting all of you. So thank you.
Jenny, how can people find you? If they want to find you, how can they find you?
They can find me on TikTok or Instagram at Channing Hafner. It's like in my name here. Just leave out the Michaela. My name is very long. Yeah, and I'll be there. Or DM me. I may or may not reply.
Plus, thank you so much for jumping on tonight's show, and thank you for the great conversations. And Channing, the fact that you sit here and listen to other men and have this conversation, that probability of finding your chat just went up. All right.
Yeah, respect for that.
All right.
Yeah.
And yeah. So that's one thing I always tell women. If you want to find out good advice from how to attract a man, go get it from men. Don't get it from other women.
Will, next problem when you have like 3 or 4 feminists that are going to gang up on you, you have to. Daniela usually joins, but you have to get nameless.
Also want to give a special shout out to Naylor, man. Protagonist, you were dropping some truths and some gems and some bombs, and I always, you know, people that know me, like I love facts over feelings.
Yeah. That's all we got, fam. That's all we got.
You know what? Nameless is the way that the information that you provided, Nameless, is essentially what we're trying to get people to look into. Look into your biology at its basic level. At least learn about your neurochemistry and find what motivates you as a male or female, because that dictates a lot of the way that the environment that you're in will influence your decision making. And however, we tend to blur the line so much because we tend to be a lot more self-aware with all the convenience of modern day era, that we think that we can outthink ourselves biologically. Just because
blame
we
that in
feel,
Western. I think it's Western culture. It's a trap of Western culture.
It's a trap
of individualism.
Yeah, it's a trap of I'll take it with. Actually, you're right. Individualistic view. Not only that, provided by convenience of modern day and long-term era of peace. There is no, even though there is some talk of war, but when you have a long period of peace, people tend to have more time to be in their thoughts. So therefore, individualistic viewpoints come forward. People are more self-aware, and now they can think, I can outthink my physical vessel in a sense.
Well, here's why I think that might just be a Western thing. In Japan, the Edo period was 250 years of peace. I think it's the longest in recorded history. And what made that so interesting is the Tokugawa era. They employed a modality of following this concept that was brought up by Prince Shotoku called Ue, which stood for the idea of the society being in harmony with each other. And so they developed a deep custom of everybody being interdependent. They eliminated the individualism entirely. You were an aspect of the family. The family was the basic building block, and that building block served as a foundation for the nation. That's how you got Japan's unprecedented peace period. And it was pretty interesting because the majority of their culture to this day can be pretty much traced back to that Edo period. So I think it's the aspect of Western culture to get involved in a dynamic of control where it sees the individual as the modality to master first and use that self-mastery as a justification to master the world around you. So any failure on your part to not have what it is that you need is a perceived indicator that you are lacking in a baseline right to that dynamic. So what happens is you miss the interconnectivity you have with the bigger picture. And I'll contrast that with an African proverb. It goes, "Mimimi ntukwa sababu kunawatu," which means
too intelligent to be here, man.
It means, I don't want to finish that. That was Kiswahili. It stands for and it's funny because we had the chick here from South Africa. It means I'm a person because they are people. And it's an understanding that even though, yes, you are an individual, you are contributing to a greater dynamic. You are a plot, you are a point in this graph. You contribute to a deeper pattern. You have an orientation in a bigger picture. You can compare it to the butterfly effect, etc. This is a difficult concept within Western culture. And it in a way goes against the parallels of individuality and tying yourself up by your bootstrap. And I don't want to use that as an excuse to say that there's a responsibility that the society has to you. It's just that two things can be true at the same time. It is, you are able to be an individual, and you as an individual can serve as a fractal to a bigger aggregate. You are a person because there are people. And if you understand that there's a mutual reflection upon one another, it's kind of like this phrase we use in martial arts of the moon reflecting in the water. And excuse me if I'm getting esoteric. It's to say that there is a relationship between the moon and the water, and that the water doesn't take the time to reflect the moonlight. It simply does it without thought. There is an interplay relationship to the two that is mutually understood, and it happens with clarity. That's the relationship that an individual has with the greater aggregate society that he's a part of. And I think this is being lost in the aspect that you're talking about, Tanelia, of the modern convenience of having those immediate needs met without seeing the connection that brought you there. You know, people don't see that this technological world is interconnected because they don't need to see it to get their baseline awareness understood. And that creates a lack of empathy, which is unfortunately really, really impacting the relationship dynamic we see now. It's very unfortunate. And sadly, it's the kids that are really starting to suffer from this now.
I've one of the question you asked before was, I think you alluded to, we're unclear on how we can solve these current problems. I think, for instance, male culture needs to revert back to rite of passage. We need to come together as a society and figure out what rite of passage we need to put in front of our children, especially boys, and put them through it so that they can build their values. Because essentially, as much as third and fourth wave feminism are making a huge impact on society, it is the men allowing them, essentially.
Well, let me ask you a question. And you're right. I'm gonna say that first and foremost. I'm gonna underscore, underline, and bold that 100% rites of passage needs to be provided for, not just for men, but women also. And here's the problem. Here's the problem. If we understand how we got here, and I guess this is where I'm not going to say I'm nihilistic. It's why I'm kind of lost at how you do this in this current environment. the general gatekeepers of the culture are the women. And by the time you get to the age that the men or the boys really need to start their transition into manhood, usually the man is kicked out of the house if he wasn't there to start with. By the age of 7, most of an individual's personality and neurological makeup and sense of personality are not only budding, they're almost solidified and set on a trajectory. For the average person in the modern world, especially in the West, they've predominantly been grown and molded by their mothers, who are animated in this sense of, I see you as a liability and obligation that I'm going to take care of and make sure you've got a roof over your head and food to eat. And there is absolutely no pattern or modern or format for this boy to observe men exercising power or men working together. Because at 7 years old, you know what happens in the West? They go to kindergarten. And who's going to be the individual that now takes over their education and understanding of the worldview around them? Another woman. Likely not even part of their culture, but from another household entirely. So here you are now going through a re-socialization that is largely and decidedly feminine, because it's not in a masculine modality to sit still and listen for hours on end and follow a regimented pattern of operate by this bell system. It is a conditioning that effectively neuters and emasculates on an intrinsic level. And when they're done with school, where are they going? Back home to the same dynamic, reinforced by the same things they're seeing on TV. So what I'm saying is, what you would have to have is a sphere of women that are willing to preserve that dynamic and be willing to aggressively pursue that. And one, provide reward for women who do that, and provide punishment for women that are not willing to do that. Because in reality, women regulate other women. And that's what's missing in the West.
You are not being nihilistic. You are being realistic. Most of the discussions here with Will, it's like we are men, usually a group of men try to think about the group instead of the selfishness of their own self. They think, okay, we need to do this and this and this and this and this and this. And you can have a village with 100 people, 49 men that go by the group and make themselves available to help at any time. But if one man, a bad man, goes to the other side and impregnates 3 or 4, the problem grows exponentially, because women usually on this side, that's the thing, the selfishness. This is about me, my friend. These conversations is always the same. No, because my friend. No, because I don't do that. No, because me. And when you say, please, you have to put a group in front of your own desires, you are done. Because the village can have thousands of people that are good men. If you have 5 men that are terrible, they are going to create a lot of single kids that are going to be, because women really.
But what did we do to them in antiquity? They disappeared, didn't they? You see what I mean? And that's not a doable thing in the modern.
The genie will not come back to the bottle, man.
This is the psychopathy within me, though, is that we must do all that we can. However, there will be a lot of people who will succumb to their own decisions, in the sense that we're in a podcast where we're talking about men and women and the attraction of women to men. These women who are essentially the feminists who are drawing more and more of the female community into their circle, well, eventually majority of them won't give birth, or they will give birth to lower quality man and will face more problems. So as dark as that is what I'm implying, the long-term run of everything is that, and it's a sad and psychopathic way of looking at it, but it is eventually what society is driving themselves towards, is that the strong will survive. When we talk about biology, when we don't choose men and female that are of good quality, and often we base these judgment right off the bat physically by physically vetting men and women. We're then exposing our future generations to diseases biologically. We pass on genetics, DNA, and eventually they will die out in generations to come. So long-term wise, this is what and this is also for the men, but this is what the feminist movement aren't really looking towards, is that we are driving ourselves towards mass extinctions, and they are the brutal force of it. And the strong will be the only survival.
Well, let me say this, and you guys rock with me on this and let me know what your thoughts are, because I have a theory. Based on what you observe, because I think a lot of us see this trajectory down the road, what you just said. And given that I mentioned the Mouse Utopia experiments earlier, that's exactly how they ended the way you're describing. If you're familiar with the fourth industrial wave, what I'm talking about with regards to that are things such as transhumanistic ideology. So we're talking about cognitive sciences becoming more popular. So implants, things like the chips that Elon Musk was doing. We've got the integration of AI, the integration of automation, these sorts of paradigm shifting technologies, artificial wombs, genetic modification that's already available now through CRISPR-Cas. I think they're at Cas 29 now. It's crazy. So what I'm saying is, with that, within the next 50 years, hands down, likely much earlier than that, what I think is about to happen due to what you're describing in the current demographic crisis that's transpiring now, i.e. people not procreating at enough to replace the people retiring. What I think is going on is that society is going to adopt, or maybe the powers that be, let me go get my tinfoil hat on, and rock with me on this. Like I said, I think we're approaching a hive scenario. Let me explain. Most people don't know that a hive consists 99% of women. A hive is 99% women. Those workers are all female, all of them. There is a queen, and she is almost the sole reproducer. And there are males, but those males are drones, and they're small in number, and the only thing they do is provide seed for the queen to procreate, and that's it. They travel from nest to nest, impregnating any queen, and they don't have a stinger. I want you to think about what society looks like now and what it's beginning to look like as I say this. Each of the worker bees are not only female, they do have stingers, and they have specialized roles that they are genetically predisposed to perform. Now, what did I just say about the fourth industrial wave and the kind of technology that will become available through artificial wombs? You're going to have the potential for modern society to effectively have everyone function as though they are female. And I want you to take a look at the alphabet movement. I don't want to get you in trouble, but we know for a fact that the overwhelming majority of individuals that engage in that, when they go into specifically the alterization or the reassignment of gender, it is generally individuals with Y chromosomes doing this, meaning they effectively become non-reproducing females, which is precisely what those worker bees are, or workers within a hive dynamic. And when you've got the social environment calibrating to this environment to facilitate a female-driven matriarchal undertone with its select few male drones for the purpose of procreating, and a society that is genetically highly specialized to perform specialized roles, that is highly automated through an integration of a sophisticated phenotype or phenome system, i.e., social media, the metaverse, things such as this, I see a parallel to exactly the way a hive works. Whether I'm looking at bees, hornets, ants, they all have the same formula. 99% females that are non-reproducing, select few male drones that are there for the purpose of reproduction, and an organized society that is predicated on establishing a hive dynamic in a colonial sort of dynamic, and I just mean like a colony or a hive of individuals that are working like a superorganism. That's what I see as the answer to circumvent what you were describing, to prevent a continuation of what we see in the first world, which is non-reproducing and demographic crashing.
It's an interesting concept, but I think two things are going to be have way more saying in that. The first one, I was talking to a friend a couple of days because he goes a lot to Japan and comes back to Europe, and he was talking about sex dolls and now about the technology that they had. Right. They were expecting like in 15 years to have like sex dolls that can change how they look, that are really, 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 really realistic.
Did you see how they can do it with the implants and AI now?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You see, and when men, like we see right now, why I'm going to get married if I can have the meal for free? And if they are able to make a product that makes really, because the incentives are gone. The incentives are gone. As soon as the men have something like that, the incentives are gone, and you will really see a societal reset, because women are not going to be able to use the P, like we in Portuguese say the xereca card, but it's like the P card. So they are going to have to adjust and do stuff that they are going to have to calibrate themselves in order to survive. But the thing I think is going to happen is usually there has to be like a catastrophic event, like a big war, a big pandemic, for women to reverse to that role. Because you saw with the pandemic, a lot of Americans that are in Europe, they're having the same problem. Women come back home, starting to work from home, and now they are not going to, they don't want to. They really don't want to go back at work. So if we have a massive war, if we have a massive, like another bug, I think that's the only way the stubborn women that are selfish in nature are going to be back to where they usually are. And I'm not saying the kitchen and you, just like on a natural role, I think they only going to be open to let the guy lead, to let the guy be the man when their backs are against the table.
But that's what I'm talking about. She ends up being a non-reproducing female. That's my point, which is the worker bee dynamic I'm talking about.
In name as a protagonist, I have a question. Because I do believe that's probably where we're heading. I've talked to this multiple times with Daniela. I think either we're going to experience some kind of revolution in the future. It's going to collapse because no matriarchal societies ever stand against the test of time. Or I think that another country with its led with strong men, it's going to take over. And that's what I believe.
Shout out to Russia. Shout out to Russia.
Russia's on the top of that list.
I think we are going to, the Western society is under threat internally, and we as the Western society will crumble within. And I think if you look at the current development of all the different structure of nations currently, they will threat war, but they won't wage war. And the reason why I'm saying that is, why wage war when we ourselves are killing ourselves? And we're finding one of the big, and I had a discussion with a close friend of mine, is that we're currently under a massive warfare right now. It is similar to the Cold War, but no one's noticing it. And it's a war of the Western society between men and women. And we are going to destroy ourselves. We're increasing incels as every year progresses. We're increasing men who are involuntarily abstaining from sex. Therefore, you're driving aggression and non-regulation of their testosterone with them. The biggest threat is going to be these type of men, because it will get to a point where they are being oppressed by the men in the hierarchy of society, but not only that, the women. and me just thinking, in a sense, we are going to destroy ourselves from within, and it will start with men, and then we'll go after both men and women, and from then on it will be those men who have procured enough resources to be far away from that environment that will essentially, for some reason, be the survivor or whatever. But it's interesting that we're talking about this, because as I talk to Will, a big part of me parenting and as a father is that I'm exposing my child to what a man should be, and to strive for succession regardless of whatever female standards are there. You have to survive. You have to be successful for your own survival, because as we talk about feminism now, he's going to go for it, and unless he is in a state of power in the future, he cannot escape it. Society won't allow him unless he is in some form of power, and at least he gets to navigate that structure, that societal structure, in some form of way.
Yeah,
in privilege.
You have to come out on the top. That's the thing.
Yeah.
You have no power to stop it. You only have the power to tell your younger brother, hey, the top is there. You have to go this and this and this and go to the top. And after that, it's done. I don't know if Nameless Protagonist is like a Red Pill creator too, but there's a question for you. And Will, when you want to close, I don't know, you usually have to run.
No, I definitely appreciate getting to chop it up with you guys, though. Just as an aside.
We too. That's a good conversation. But I had a question to you three. Like here in Europe, on the United States, like with Kevin Samuels and the other guys, men are starting to waking up real fast. On Brazil, the movement is huge, is gigantic. Here in Europe, folks are starting to waking up too. So on 10 years, we know that the environment will be very different, because a huge percentage of men are starting to understand that feminism is not about equality and Do you think that if the top men start to recognize this trend and try to popularize it, I think the biggest problem with that is like the other guys, the guys that don't have access to sex and to women, they are going to, it's like saying, okay, I don't want her because I see this red flag here, and then she goes to the beta male that give her everything she has, and he starts to be the biggest problem because he's going to lower the standards, and now everybody has to run to that standard because he's giving everything and the other guy's not. The question
go ahead.
The question will be, do you think like in 10 or 15 years with this trend that the feminism will start to die out, and this will be more like even because there's woke males and woke females and we are going to battle ourselves out? Or do you think that even if 30% of the men are awake, the other 70 are going to do the same thing that they are doing now and doing like laws and special treaties and stuff like that to go to the side of women because they think that they'll get the votes, they'll get the sex from them? What do you think?
Here's what I see happening, and there's two critical things you have to remember. Yes, the feminist movement is losing steam, and it's because the feminist movement turned into the intersectionalist movement around 2014. The intersectionalist movement is what people need to pay attention to because it's what opened the gate to usurp a lot of the civil rights conversations that were left over from the Black Power movements in the United States and abroad, and a lot of the movements that fueled liberation on the continent of Africa. It made a message that female liberation would be Black liberation, and that with that, this term Black becomes person of color. Somewhere around the early 2000s, I'm going to call it the alphabet movement, was grafted onto that and became an intersectionalist undertone. If you want more research, if you want more research, right? They came together and formed Voltron, basically. And so here's the important thing to remember about that. And if you want some reference, the Combi River Collective important note to go and do a Google search on that, and you will get a plethora of information. If they sound like an organization that formed recently in 2014, it's not a coincidence. My point is, the feminist movement is about to get consumed by the alphabet movement. And that is the critical change. They are going to be the ones that are going to end up as useful idiots that I'm not sure how that fallout is going to play out exactly. But what I do know is that this new movement is going to carry so much weight, because at the same time as we speak, you have Generation Alpha and Beta that are growing up, learning how to use an iPhone, learning how to use an iPad, learning how to use a cell phone, a smartphone in particular, but they're not developing the linguistic neural collections required for sociology and empathy. And what's happening is you're also having these children bombarded with the idea of, do you believe you should be able to wear a dress to school? Now, what did I say? That the alphabet movement is going to usurp the feminist movement, which means that's going to take the place of civil rights. Now, when you combine that with what's happening with AI, the natural transition from the alphabet movement is going to be integrating technology and seeing technology and AI as an entity, specifically a social intellectual entity. And if you want an illustration of that, take a look at Sophia the robot, who received her international citizenship via the UN to Saudi Arabia.
That's scary. That's really scary.
It's scary, but this is how deep the rabbit hole goes and how fast it's moving. Because I said very early, and you mentioned it with the robot sex dolls, that at the end of the day, the civilization is moving faster than the culture knows how to keep up and come up with solutions. And what's going to happen is this gender war we're experiencing, really, we don't know it, but it's already over. It's that meme, omae mo shinderu, you're already dead. Like, we just got to wait for the camera angle.
The domino's already falling.
We just don't know it yet. We're already being primed for this robot movement, which is why I talk about the hive. Because it's the only way you save the society, by getting it to integrate openly with the technology, by calibrating the children to be less empathetic, more autistic, and more compatible with having those baseline needs met via technology, and taking the impetus of socialization from the family unit and emphasizing the social peer group, just like a colony of eggs would do, a cluster of eggs would operate. And if you pay attention to the children coming up now, this is exactly how they're being raised, like clusters. They're not centralized around the family. It's social media and proxy authority figures that are raising them, either vicariously living through these figures such as idols and other big social figures, or individuals that have been marketed through the education. And I don't know who has a social response for this right now, outside of similar things that you said, Tanilia, which is aggressively interjecting in the lives of your kids and instilling values of not only self-sufficiency, but being able to become bilingual in this new technological world that's happening, which means making them global citizens.
Yeah.
Also, man, that was great. Nameless protagonist, that was great. I would also add on, because I know Claudio said, Claudio said that, men are starting to become aware, that the movement of manosphere, the red pill movement is starting to grow. For myself, I don't label myself as like a red pill, but I am red pill aware.
You're based on reality.
Because what I'm starting to see, because the manosphere was created to battle feminism, radical feminism, right? But what's happening, what I see with a lot of the men in that space, they're becoming the feminists. They're becoming radicalized, and now they're against women. So the purpose of the manosphere was to fight feminism, so we can, bring women and men together. But what's happening in the manosphere as it's growing, there's all these incels or these guys who have this contempt and these bad experiences of women, and using that manosphere as a way to get back at women. And justify a lot of that, and they're becoming the very feminists that we are trying to battle.
Can I just say one thing real quick, Will?
Go ahead.
You know where I noticed that? And I'm not going to say the name of the podcast, but you guys know.
Yeah.
But I noticed that because I really thought that the group was a group of men that like had common interests and try to better themselves. But as soon as they lash on the woman, you see they are living by through those guys. You see really that if they kick somebody out or if they lash, the guys on the shit are like,
they enjoy it.
Do it for me. That's scary.
Oh,
that's
when they put women down, they enjoy it. They have like they get excited for it. They find happiness enjoying it. And and that's the thing. Like I don't hate women. I love women. I believe in families. But the thing is, I just see a lot of men in that space. They're like the radical feminists that we were trying to battle, and then now the radical feminists against the men. Now the men against the women, and it's for me it's alarming.
Here's why. At the end of the day, what they're dealing with is
my psychopathy nature is coming out again, and it's rather than alarming, it's exciting me to have more children. Actually, have more sons, because I would love to see them prosper in society. But yeah, the attainment of power to set them up for the long term is something that is quite exciting for me in my own personal professional journey.
Yeah,
I would say that what you're observing, Will, is the fact that a majority of these dudes are coming in at different times of dealing with this truth. And ultimately, we need to remember that most of these men were raised in the West, number one.
Yeah,
and most of them were raised by single mothers. And so their coping mechanisms that they cultivated generally were learned from the environments they came out of. That's step one. That means that when their worldview was challenged, there was nothing that was being offered to them to replace it. So they take the red pill, and in an essence, they cough it back up because they want things to stay the same while still knowing the truth. And unfortunately, the two can't coincide with each other. To understand the truth means to resolutely accept the reality. In the style of swordsmanship I study, there's a phrase that's very popular. The way of the warrior is found in resolute acceptance of death. And this concept of death is an understanding of inevitable change in reality. Because in order to give life to a new form, death of the old form has to take place first. That is the initiation of the red pill. They want the initiation, but they still want to be in a state that they were prior to initiation, with all the benefits that come with knowing the truth. And you can't have that. So they want to use that knowledge to try to force women to change rather than use that knowledge to accept the condition, to resolutely accept death, and then move forward into a new paradigm for themselves where they have initiative. That's what's missing.
Wholeheartedly agree.
Yeah, because I think Daniela, I think we talked about it. I always believe that the woman will always align if the man is doing what he's supposed to do. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of times I see these a lot of men that they're just trying to change these women, and instead of putting that effort back into themselves. So and it's I just see. I mean, when I first found the manosphere, the red pill space, I was wow, like these are things that I thought of as I grew up. I just never knew the terms or never knew the analogies. But I just see there's a lot of men out there that they're breeding men to go against women, which is not the point. Our point is like to bring us together.
Create a stronger society.
Yeah.
They swallow the red pill not to get better, but to like they swallow it and they know the reality and they say, now change. You see, it's like a magic trick.
It's exactly what women are doing now. We want it all and we want it both
ways.
Yeah. And that's
where did they learn that from? That's my point. Like, we can't be surprised when we plant apples and get apples, but even though everyone's like, well, I mean, I put it in the conditions that work for watermelons. Oh, that's not how you get that, man.
That's a feminist. I want you to change, but I don't want to change.
Right.
That's what the manosphere is like starting to become.
And they are going to create really better because the chats are going to understand the thing that they don't understand is that they are giving the weapon, but women are on Brazil. You notice that women are starting to catching up to what they are teaching, and they are morphing to
And
get
it's
to be that way,
crazy.
and they are using it against men that are not prepared. And the thing I noticed too is that the most dangerous guy that is the Chad and the Tyrone, that he had like an innate talent for that, and now he knows it and knows what he is, and he
he's
becomes a monster.
conscientious.
Yeah, and now he becomes a monster because instead of being like a wild beast that goes there and gets a kid,
He's
gets a
self-aware
drug,
and disciplined.
yeah,
Yeah.
now he's a monster because he understands how they work, and now he's with the natural weapons that he had. Now he's a monster, and he will make it way harder, because the same way woman got, you saw the girl, and but she said, oh, 30 not red. Guys that even didn't know her are sending her message. So imagine a guy that is usually, or has a little bit of money, has a little bit of power, and understands his principles.
Oh, they're running
That
through
guy
all
is
of them.
unstoppable.
Yeah, and that's where I get the dichotomy of the drone for the future. You know, I
He's
it's
going
hard.
to be the drone.
Yeah, I mean, what is that by definition? Like, that's what they do, man. They go from queen to queen and just
Sounds like a-
have kids.
That kid with the chisel jaw. He's going to
Right.
be the drone.
I got see. That's why I can't draw. You have a bee with a big ass jawline, no stinger. Just that's funny. But yeah, and I guess to honor the spirit of problem solving, I guess my solution or I'm gonna say coping strategy is to really emphasize this idea of men in the modern era striving to be universal men. And I think this idea of being a universal man and universal human being is going to have much more value in the very near future, because you already have babies that have been born through not just artificial insemination, but artificial insemination via
by universal man. What do you mean by that?
I'll explain. You have children that have been born using genetic modification. So what I mean by that is, very soon the definition of what it means to be a human being is going to change very radically. When you have people who are born from a lot of these artificial technologies, there's going to be a question of, do you consider them the same as a person that's naturally born? Take, for example, Tanelia, in 10 years, you have a kid, and this kid is going to have the option to be born with certain implants that they're going to have a genetic predisposition of advantage if they get it early. They're going to be surrounded by peers who are going to have parents that will probably greenlight that. And this can provide them a neurological advantage, not only in processing, but the access of information. So you are now confronted with the question of, do you provide for them these dynamics, potentially this technology, especially if it becomes affordable, or do you preserve their natural state and try to wait for them to make that decision on their own? This begins to create a secondary class of people by de facto. And these are questions the society is going to have to answer much sooner than it's prepared to. You may even have to in your lifetime. Anyone listening to this now, if you plan on having kids in the next 15 years, this is going to be something that you're going to have to be confronted with. What I'm saying is the definition of human being is about to change dramatically. And I don't think we've really pierced into the real meaning of what it means to even be human yet. And it's already about to change.
About to change.
It might be the same. It might be the same thing. Like, remember when there was like the nobles, the kings, and then the peasants?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah,
If a group with
that
higher
stratification.
genetics, if I know that you have higher genetics, have a chip that's programmed with it, am I going to procreate with the normal human? And look, usually those guys are going to.
That's going to be part of that's going to be part of women's new standards. Add on to the height, 6
No.
feet, 6 feet, 6 income, modified genetics.
Yeah, if you
Put it
have
in the oven. Wait for
an
an hour.
iPhone chip, because Samsung chips, I don't like it. So only iPhone chips. Okay.
But you see how we're still operating on that million-year-old technology, but we have all these new things that are changing the paradigm so quickly that you can't fall on the old social responses with regard to that. Like, what I mean is, the answer I see is going back to a form, and bear with me on this, initiation as it was understood in antiquity to the sciences of sorcery. Now, what I mean by that is the time period in human history when science and religion were the same thing. And I don't mean that people were depending on a sky daddy. I mean information that was in the realm of things like metaphysics. Because if you observe a lot of metaphysical principles that served as a lot of foundations for the sciences that were made popular in the 1900s, a lot of those old metaphysical principles are now becoming revisited with fact because technology has now finally caught up to prove these principles exist. So what I'm saying is, following some of those older rituals of initiation, such as hermetics and masonry, some of these baseline concepts can and do apply to where we're going with this technology. Because when you can do the things that you can do with the fourth industrial wave that's incoming, the power that a programmer is going to have with nanobytes and nanotechnology, the power that an individual is going to have with creating artificial space in the metaverse, it's no different than looking at, quote, the spirit world and trying to beseech ancestors or spirit entities for help. You're going online to address a program. You're using an interface that's in your brain to make that happen rather than going through a DMT-induced trance, through some psychedelic drug. We're getting access to older aspects of our neurology that had a cultural framework for it, but have been pretty much left alone in the industrial period. And we're now in an age where people can benefit from it again. If we follow a initiation-based dynamic that the elite of old used to follow, and we employ that in our everyday lives and seek to take advantage of the fact that the world has gotten smaller and not operate strictly from a local nationalistic based modality, but a global and humanistic modality, I think we find an answer or a way to cope that is much more able to address the problems that are coming down that most people aren't looking at right now.
Hey, did you guys see how China is monitoring their content for their men and women?
The smart cities and stuff and the social scores?
No, I saw like
that's part of it. That's part of it.
Yeah, it was on a Joe. I listened to on a Joe Rogan podcast, and they said that China, the content that they allowed their men to see on social media, it's content for them to become more manly.
Oh yeah,
right, yeah. So they
edited the video games and stuff too.
Yeah. But so for me, it's just very interesting to see where we're going to be as a society. So China is trying to make their men become more manly, more masculine.
China's getting ready for a big war.
Yeah, because China sees where it's going. The China sees where they turn on. They know the other countries like Russia, China, they see that like we're deconstruction, like we're gonna collapse pretty soon. But for me, it's just like that's what China's doing, that's what Russia's doing. But then here we are in America, feminizing men, masculinization of women, and then the gender is no longer a fact no more. It's just for me, it's like damn, like for me it's just interesting because we're gonna see who's gonna come out at the end, and we know.
It's interesting because you know what's funny? As soon as the fight starts, Western women
they're gonna get feminine real quick.
They are going to back away.
There's no feminist in outside.
Please solve it. That's the. I will be very in favor of a 50-50 if they wanted the responsibilities that will come with the bullshit. And that's the problem. As soon as a little fight breaks out, they are going to. Did you saw when, like the U.S. coalition got back from Afghanistan, and the first thing they send men back to help the ladies because the Taliban are going to get them, and they are not going to be able to go to school. And we were like, okay, but men is it men that have nothing to do with that are going to risk their lives to save women from another country? Why don't you go there and do the humanitarian stuff? And I said, no, because, and that's really the problem. I think that was a microcosm of what is going to happen on a fuller scale.
That's also a big reason why I'm so against this whole vulnerability thing with men, especially around mental health. And I talk to a lot of my men in construction in the sense that you regulate the way you deal with external problems by working for it physically, by getting your physical body to be involved in that process. If you sit there and acknowledge what you're going through without actually addressing it physically with whatever the solution may be, you're putting a dagger in your heart and you're slowly killing yourself. Versus if you do things, and we've already learned the way that we create solutions for it. You either go to the gym and be active, or you put into a craft, or pick up a hobby, or go out and see your mates and that sort of stuff. The reason why I bring that point up is that we now know that China is restricting the access of information, and they are running a mass program with their population to retrain their men to be men. When we talk of war, and this is a conversation I usually have with my closest mate, when we look at modern day soldier, the reason why we think, and this is the way that we discuss these matter, the reason why we think and we look at the rate of depression in retired soldiers or vets is that they are not fighting for improvement of their society, or they are not trained to look at it in that way, to be logical in the sense of why they're in war. They go into war and they turn into the monster that they are without the requirements met for a man to take another man's life. When you go to war in the sense of procuring resources to elevate whether that's your family standing or your societal standing, we become psychopathic in the way that we justify these means. And it's a very logical mean. If my household is being threatened by another household, I will wage war on that household, so therefore I will survive. And I will do whatever it takes. War is a larger scale. And I won't sit there and be depressed if I annihilate the complete opposite. Logically in my brain that works.
Yeah.
But now we are sending men to war without giving them that prerequisite to be trained in that sense, to look at it in that way. So going back to our discussion, the feminist movement are really going to reevaluate what they are currently putting into women's head, and also the what we call the beta male, if it does turn to that, because essentially we are built to go to war, and if we're justifiable, we will do it, but women aren't. And it's good. To me, I'm more excited than I am alarmed. I am alarmed, but
did you hear that saying that it's like there's a clip running around that summarizes this situation real good. Joe Rogan is talking and he's saying that Jordan Peterson told him one time that it's better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war. And that's what the West is going to do.
Musashi said that point.
Yeah, they are going to send gardeners to the war.
Yeah, Jordan Peterson is paraphrasing, but essentially his whole ideal with that is that you, as a man, you should be a monster. You should be the absolute monster that you are, and then to learn to harness and to control that. And that's what you were saying before. The Chad used to be senseless, mindless fools who had the girls because they had some advantage, but now they're conscientious, they're more self-aware. They are learning the formulas of the non-Chads who had to work their way up to get the girl away from them. And now they are more powerful states. And
that was what I was talking about with regards to initiation. Because when we talk about manhood initiation, I make this statement often that women have the option to learn how to be a warrior, but men have a requirement to do so.
Yeah.
You don't get the definition of a man without there being an undertone and an understanding that you are a warrior first and foremost. Yes, you have a measure of authority that is intrinsic to you by virtue of you being a man, but that has to be protected. Your domain has to be protected by virtue of your ability to establish a warriorship. And there's a brotherhood that's implied with that, because being a warrior and being a fighter are totally different things. And I think that people overemphasize the idea of being a fighter and have no idea what a warrior is. That is a culturally anointed undertone, dynamic, and archetype related to the masculine principle. It is universal and across all cultures, period. You will not find a culture that doesn't have its warriors there. And you can tell the state of a culture by the state of its warrior culture. Oftentimes it will weave into a esoteric culture that is often held by the elders, you know, your clergy. It's how you get concepts related to religion, and all of these things interplay with each other. And lastly, you know, you do have kind of like a lover concept where, you know, it's the glue that helps people create relationships and family. And I think that in the West, that aspect is overemphasized, when in reality, it's supposed to be a byproduct of the other three archetypes being in order. Having an area with which for you to establish a domain so you can have a kingly authority. 2, having warriors that are able to defend that authority. And 3, a group of people who are able to help orient that position within time and space in the universe. And have that solidified by applying that context to the family unit so that you can continue on to the next generation. This is a flow that's supposed to be there and provided for by the culture. But by and large, these things have been replaced by artificial dynamics that we talked about earlier in the modern world, such as having material representations of success, oftentimes interpreted through popular media, these corporations that got people wanting to have the picket fence in the suburbs that people maybe had for a hot second, but that's out the window now. And that you don't have to worry about a family to make that happen. You can be strong and independent and have it too. And when that was bought up wholesale, everything you're talking about, Tanelia, fortunately, it goes out the window. And the people who can emulate these dynamics because they bucked back against that conditioning are the only ones that still fit that archaic limbic lizard brain level reminder of what masculinity looks like. And that's what ends up constituting the dynamic of the so-called chat. I think all of us have this. I just think that in the modern era and in the West in particular, that is the first thing to be sacrificed in order for you to participate in society, which is why I think the alphabet movement gains so much weight, because you're not given the opportunity to even be a man, let alone the authority that needs to be offered to you as a man, because you don't seize authority, it's delegated to you by other authorities. And that's the difference. You can't have responsibility without that undertone of authority. Otherwise, you're left with liability. It's no different than a software network. What is that? Online security. Those folks that handle that. It'd be like being one of those individuals that has to hack into your own job to protect the network that you're responsible for
ethical
procuring.
hacking through cybersecurity.
Right. It would make no sense for you to have to hack your own network that you're there for. You need to have the authority to be in the area that you're responsible for. Like having an ID card that gets you into the job that you're responsible to report to. If you're not given the authority to get in there, how do you perform that role? You can't. That's provided for by the group of people that assign you the role of man. But when you see that role as optional, but you still want those same functions performed, you're at an impasse. You can't do it. And that's where we're back again to, that's how I think you get that reset button, going back to those forms of initiation I'm talking about and reinstilling those archetypes and taking a universal human, universal man approach, because that's exactly the way the power is flowing now. What China and Russia are trying to do, they want to get the initiative so that they can win the AI race, because whoever wins the AI race wins big.
You know why
Next
they don't
movement.
care? You know why they don't care? Because they don't have to pander for votes, and that's the biggest problem.
And
If
there
you
we
have to
go.
pander for votes,
Yeah.
then you are
You're
going
right.
to make laws for women, and then that's exactly what you said. They are asking permission to women to put them on the place to do their bidding. That's why
Yeah.
women are not the problem. Men are the problem because they are the ones that are pulling the strings because their woman said so and they want to get their approval and they want to get their votes. That's the problem.
Mm.
Well, fellas, man, we have
Interesting rabbit hole.
Hey,
thank you for going deep on this rabbit hole. Post the podcast, and I appreciate the conversation tonight. And as always, Claudia, Daniela, and most importantly, thank you, nameless protagonist,
I followed
for
you
jumping
on. I followed you on. I saw a lot of. I followed the nameless protagonist. I saw a lot of Japanese characters, stuff like that. So I followed you. Yeah. I followed you to understand what this guy is because I think he's a robot. I really.
He's a drone.
I've been called an alien, a robot.
He's infiltrated
I'm with it.
the circle.
I need to understand this. And right now is 8:30 in the morning here, so you owe me 3 extra hours. Okay.
No worries. Thank you like always, and appreciate it. And nameless protagonist, drop your IG, your socials. I want to follow you.
Okay. All right.
On the comments of the live, it doesn't. I'll find it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
The Nameless Path is Instagram.
yes, sir. Oh, I guess you saw my page.
Yeah,
I got my
just,
contact info
subscribed.
on there.
Nice.
Yeah,
But-
it's the
but
nameless
you-
path.
He had a really high probability of being like a catfish that is going to like strip at some point or something. But you did well, Will. You did well of letting me join because I think this was one of the pleasant conversation I had in a long time. Internet.
Oh
is
yeah.
punching, screaming.
I wish he would have joined us in those heated debates.
Oh
Yeah.
man, I'm
Yeah.
just here to
We've-
serve the space, fam.
We've had some heated debates.
Well, I come from a sector of YouTube where we have to deal with the intersectionalist, and like I've said in one of my more recent podcasts, I'm working on developing a verbal martial art that's designed to deal with the rhetoric that's targeted against men, because our role again, because there's a monopoly on physicality, there is a non-restraint on the non-physical forms of assaulting people. And men, again, are the disproportionate recipients of a lot of this violence. And so the way I see it, the only way you can defend yourself against rhetoric, which is the most weaponized term, is to do so verbally. And it follows the concept of swordsmanship known as the twofold path of the pen and sword. And so I took that up on a literal sense to form a verbal martial art to address the rhetoric. And I'm coming up with a series of ideas that maybe you guys will rock with. You know, I've got the first 3 sword forms out there, so you guys can take a look at my channel. And definitely, I'd love the feedback. You guys are definitely welcome to join in the conversation too. And I just want to help, be of use to folks.
It's a great idea. Men really need to do that because when you are discussing with women, they don't pull any single punch towards you, towards your argument. They go usually when we talk, we are like with the hands are on our pockets and looking on the other side. So that is a really great idea. I don't know how you're going to implement it, but it's a great idea. And I wish you were here when we wasted 2 hours talking about relationships.
Me multiplying by 0.
No, and
essentially,
and then she said that I'm not going to name, and this is me, this is not Will, the other guys. And then she said, we 2 hours talking about the best guy on her life, and then she said, "Oh no, but we were just seeing around. It was 2 months," and I was like, we talked for 2 hours about the guy that opened emotionally to her, and he was a really great guy, and he was the best that she ever had. And then at the end of the show, she said, "No, but it was only 2 months, and we see each other." But then and I was like,
that was the one I DM'd you, right?
Wow.
Yeah, there was.
Wow.
Was I in the discussion?
No, that was last week.
There was something. There was something. I was
No,
ashamed of myself because I didn't ask. Oh, but did you guys date really, really? And she was talking about this wonderful guy that they had a great relationship. We were back and forth for 2 hours, and then she said, "No, we were just seeing around for 2 months, and then he went his way, and I went too."
Yeah, that's why. That's why you guys. That's why I asked her like, are you still with him? That's the point. And as great as she explained it to me, I was like, you say that, are you still with him? Are you still
That's
with
not
that guy?
even the question. Is did you get with him?
Yeah,
because you didn't get with him.
That's that vicarious life we were talking about.
You see the confusion of the sex attention to relationship attention. She was so mesmerized with him. He gave her 2 months of company and sex, and she thought that was the best guy she had because she confused both of them. And I was like, okay.
Yeah, we were trying to get facts, but she wanted to talk about feelings, and we were trying to talk about facts. So that's how that's the modern day women. But fellas, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
It was a pleasure.
It was one of the most. I loved the conversation we had after, and always nameless protagonist. You're always welcome.
I appreciate that.
Jump on it anytime, and I'll definitely have you come on and add on. All right, fellas, you guys have a good night, man.